Chapter 497. Qin Wentian's countenance grew incredibly unsightly as he stared at the middle-aged man before him. He naturally knew that the middle-aged man had a treasure that could seal this entire space, and had intentionally prepared it for him. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he rapidly retreated. He could already sense the existence of that sealing energy. With a wave of his palms, a beam of sword light slashed out, causing spatial ripples to appear. The sword light seemed to have slashed onto a layer of light, unable to cause any damage to it at all. It's useless. Yinting coldly spoke. This was an extremely powerful treasure of their Yin clan. This time around, they had taken it out to deal with him. How could they allow him to escape? I've said it before, you won't be able to escape. Shang-Chi walked forward as he coldly spoke. The geniuses from the 6 transcendent powers were all present. Not a single one was missing. They closed in step by step, staring at Qin Wentian. In their eyes, Qin Wentian could sense a clear killing intent. Evidently, all of them wanted Qin Wentian to die. Qin Wentian didn't expect that the other party would be able to find him. Not only that, they even prepared such a powerful treasure for him. In that case, it wasn't a coincidence that they were able to track him down. The purgatory vermilion bird let out a baleful roar as its body blazed with purgatory flames. Only now did those experts turn serious as they stared at the purgatory vermilion bird. Their hearts were filled with shock. The demonic beasts on this person's body were all extremely strange. That snowy dog could change its size at will. And at this moment, there was actually a purgatory vermilion bird that exuded a terrifying aura. Qin Wentian glanced at the purgatory vermilion bird. He could sense how powerful its aura was. His heart was filled with shock as well. Seems like after Little Rascal swallowed that crimson-eyed demonic beast, purgatory grew even stronger. Little Rascal was extremely intelligent. It naturally understood the situation Qin Wentian was in right now. It opened its beak and spat out astral light into the air. Momentarily, the astral light drifted through the air, transforming into a nebula. MHM. Upon seeing this scene, the middle-aged man's eyes flashed with coldness. Kill that little demon. Yes. Behind him, several people walked towards the direction of Little Rascal. Qin Wentian retreated, blocking the way. Those people halted their steps. Fear could be seen in their eyes. The scene of Qin Wentian's slaughter was still vivid in their minds. They didn't dare to offend this fiend. You seem to have a lot of spare time. A 7th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign stepped out. However, the purgatory vermilion bird's silhouette flickered as it appeared in front of Qin Wentian, blocking his path. The baleful light in its eyes caused the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. The 6 heavens chosen all moved in the direction of Qin Wentian. This time around, all of them released their astral novas at the same time, their auras surging with power. They wouldn't give Qin Wentian the slightest chance. In the battle yesterday, Xiaoyu was almost killed by Qin Wentian. He couldn't be careless when fighting with this person. If you had handed it over yesterday, you might have been spared from death. But now, there's only one path in front of you, death. Feng Yunhe coldly spoke. Such a situation was truly hopeless. There was no blood pool here. And Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't be able to use the immortal vanquishing swordplay. He only had one option left, and that was to transform into a great rock once more, using the body of a great rock to slaughter everyone here. The nebula in the air converged as a celestial phenomenon manifested. This scene caused a strange light to flash in Qin Wentian's eyes. Back then, Little Rascal had devoured the ancient formation of the vermilion bird. Now that the purgatory formation spirit had awakened, could it be that it would spit out the ancient formation and allow purgatory to control it? I have to buy some time for Little Rascal. Qin Wentian mused in his heart. The power of his bloodline surged forth once more. Yesterday, he had yet to fully recover from the usage of his bloodline power. Now that he was burning his bloodline with all his might, Qin Wentian suddenly felt as though he had surpassed the limits of his endurance. However, he had no other choice, he could only fight. The nebula in the air transformed into astral light that cascaded down onto the body of the purgatory vermilion bird, causing the flames on its body to grow even more terrifying. This scene caused the countenance of that expert to freeze as he spoke in a low voice. Kill that vile creature quickly. As the sound of his voice faded, he lunged towards the purgatory vermilion bird. With a swipe of his palm, a terrifying palm imprint of lightning manifested in the air, enveloping the gigantic body of the purgatory vermilion bird, as the might of thunder and lightning within it erupted forth. Purgatory howled in rage as purgatory flames erupted from its body, rushing towards the gigantic palm imprint. In an instant, they collided with each other, causing a terrifying might to engulf this entire space. At the same time, the six chosen all launched their attacks towards Qin Wentian. As for the others, they all focused on Little Rascal, launching their own sneak attacks. Qin Wentian's astral nova erupted forth as his demonic blood boiled. His demonic armor covered his body, giving him the appearance of a demon king. Whoever dares to step forward die. Qin Wentian roared. Stomping on the ground, Sword Chi howled as it slashed down. Why wouldn't I dare? Jian Jingtian roared as his sword Chi shook the heavens. Similarly, he unleashed his astral nova, slamming out with his palms as rows of sharp swords whistled through the air. At the same time, the heaven-shocking sword slashed out, shaking mountains and rivers as it slashed towards Qin Wentian. Boom! Qin Wentian continuously stepped forward as the might of the seven slaughters soared to the extreme. Do it! Shang-Chi coldly commanded. Momentarily, the other experts all rushed towards Little Rascal. Qin Wentian stomped on the ground again as his sword Chi soared to a terrifying degree. His silhouette directly vanished, reappearing in the middle of the group of experts as he took his fifth step. Boundless sword intent swept out in all directions as his astral nova slashed out. Instantly, fresh blood splattered as the others all retreated in all directions. Boom! The heartbreak ancient bell caused the hearts of those who heard it to tremble. At the same time, Qin Wentian took his sixth step, causing all the experts present to feel as though they were completely suppressed by the sword. Light sounds of splattering rang out, as one of them directly transformed into a rain of blood. At the same time, muffled groans rang out unceasingly as one expert after another collapsed. On the other side, Shang-Chi and the others all rushed towards Little Rascal. Feng Yunhe's speed was the fastest. His sharp claws directly smashed downwards, yet Little Rascal continued spitting out astral light as its body turned golden. Bang! The sharp claws slammed into its body. Little Rascal tumbled a few times before crawling back to its feet, and continued to spit out astral energy. The astral energy permeated the air, enveloping Purgatory's body. This Little Rascal can really endure. Xiaoyu coldly spoke. His 9 arms transformed into towering fist might that blasted into Little Rascal's body. Rumbling sounds rang out as a terrifying might gushed into Little Rascal's body. Little Rascal's body flickered, yet it was still struck by the boundless fist light, and was flung through the air, coughing out a mouthful of fresh blood. Its eyes were filled with baleful intent. It inclined its head and continued to spit out astral light. It was as though it was the same as Qin Wentian, possessing an intense obsession. Qin Wentian's killing intent soared to the extreme when he saw this scene. Stepping out, this was already his 7th step. The astral nova in his hands danced about, as though he was infused with boundless rage. Those who were still alive in the surroundings were all pierced through by the sword Qi, their throats lacerated by the sound of the sword as they died. However, these heaven-chosen didn't feel any pain in their hearts at all. It was as though these people weren't their subordinates. The threat of the 7 Annihilations swordplay was too great. Right now, he had already unleashed it once. He couldn't unleash the 7th strike of the 7 Annihilations swordplay a second time. Are you going to die or not? Xiaoyu wasn't willing to spare Little Rascal. Once again, he blasted out a towering fist light towards Little Rascal. Each of his punches contained the might of the earth, as well as the sharpness of metal. How could Qin Wentian endure this? After killing the people here, he immediately activated stellar transposition, and appeared beside Xiaoyu. The center of his brows glowed with a bright light as it shot into Xiaoyu's sea of consciousness. His astral nova directly flew out, aiming for Xiaoyu's head. However, at this moment, Shang-Chi's silhouette appeared in front of him. A blood-colored palm imprint with a hint of golden light blasted out, as the power of his regenerative bloodline surged forth, slamming into Little Rascal's astral nova. Little Rascal was sent tumbling through the air from the impact of Xiaoyu's fist. At this moment, the silhouettes of several experts appeared outside this space. These people all exuded extraordinary auras, and none of them had appeared before this. They had been maintaining a distance from the group of people in front of them, so as to not alarm Qin Wentian, and allow him to escape using a scroll. Only now did they catch up. Busy. A spatial fluctuation gushed out as the sealing energy in this space was broken apart. The silhouettes of those experts flickered as they directly rushed over. Just when Qin Wentian realized what was happening, the sealing energy appeared once more, sealing this space. Taking advantage of the time when he couldn't activate the spatial scroll, the other party allowed the other experts to enter. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over the cultivation bases of these experts as his countenance turned pale. This was a hopeless situation. The weakest among these people was at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper. There was basically no hope at all. Demonic chi gushed forth from his body as his ancient will reached the heavens. Only the demonic divinity sacrificial transformation could resolve this crisis. However, at the next instant, Qin Wentian's countenance turned deathly pale. The demonic divinity sacrificial transformation was unable to be activated. The sealing energy in this space wasn't just pure spatial energy. It was a spatial seal that sealed all connections with the outside world. The sealing energy within the treasure made it so that he had no way to form an innate connection with the constellations and borrow the power of the demonic divinities from the 8 directions. Knowing that it was impossible, Qin Wentian instantly gave up. His silhouette flickered as he appeared before Little Rascal. Those heavens chosen weren't in a hurry to act. Their gazes were filled with mockery as they stared at Qin Wentian. As for those experts who came over, they all stood in different directions. Qin Wentian was already in a hopeless situation. Little Rascal, if I die here, bring purgatory back to Grand Xia. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. If he used the immortal vanquishing swordplay in such a state, he would die without a doubt. But now he had no other choice. Roar! Little Rascal let out a low-sounding roar as it shook its head frenziedly. It was still frenziedly spitting out astral energy. If you die, do you still want them to leave? These 2 demonic beasts are actually not bad mounts. There's even a vermilion bird among them. Shang-Chi's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Could it be that Qin Wentian still wanted to protect this demonic beast? Wasn't this a little too ridiculous? Settle this vermilion bird first. Its aura is growing stronger. At this moment, the expert who was fighting against the vermilion bird spoke. A moment later, several experts dashed towards the vermilion bird. The body of the vermilion bird burned with a terrifying intensity, as though it wanted to burn everything away. With a sharp screech, it abruptly turned and spat out purgatory flames in the direction of Shang-Chi and the others. Careful! The others all shouted. Shang-Chi and the others hurriedly retreated while the vermilion bird lunged towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian, whose sword chi was still permeating the air, directly fell to the ground. Qin Wentian initially wanted to unleash the immortal vanquishing swordplay, yet he was interrupted by Purgatory. Purgatory didn't allow him to unleash this attack. Purgatory! Qin Wentian roared in rage. However, he only saw the Purgatory vermilion bird's wings wrapping around his body. The baleful eyes of the Purgatory vermilion bird flickered with a hint of gentleness. It was born because of Qin Wentian. How could it witness Qin Wentian's death the moment it appeared in this world? Purgatory wouldn't agree to this. Chapter 498. As to why Qin Wentian dared to use the immortal vanquishing swordplay despite the consequences, it was because he cultivated the great Nirvana immortal art, and had another body in the royal tomb of Grand Xia. The comprehension of that body was equivalent to Qin Wentian's own body comprehending the immortal vanquishing swordplay. Hence, even if one of his bodies perished, he wouldn't die. Naturally, Qin Wentian regarded his true body with extreme importance. If it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, how would he want to perish? But now that he was surrounded by the experts from the various major powers, he was already in a hopeless situation. Either he died together or he died to protect Little Rascal and Purgatory. Under such circumstances, he naturally would rather choose to die himself. But even if he was willing to sacrifice himself, Purgatory wouldn't agree. To Purgatory, Qin Wentian was its everything. Hence, after knowing what Qin Wentian wanted to do, Purgatory directly pressed him and little rascal beneath it. After which, it spread out its wings, protecting the two of them. Its eyes gleamed with a ferocious light as it stared at everyone. Purgatory, let me out! Qin Wentian roared, but Purgatory didn't seem to hear it. It tightly protected Qin Wentian under its body, its powerful might causing Qin Wentian to have no way to break free. What a loyal demonic beast! Why don't you follow me? An expert walked over, staring at Purgatory. Purgatory opened its mouth and spat out a Purgatory lotus, frenziedly flying over. That expert snorted coldly and stretched out his palm, causing the space around him to freeze, colliding with the Purgatory lotus. After which, both attacks shattered. The other experts all walked over, staring coldly at the Purgatory vermilion bird. In such a desperate situation, you still want to protect your master? As a vermilion bird, you are one of the 8 demonic gods. Leave with me, I won't mistreat you. Another expert walked over, wanting to subdue Purgatory. Yet what welcomed him was still a towering Purgatory flame. You don't know what's good for you. That expert snorted coldly as he launched an attack. Since I can't tame this demon, I'll just kill it. Its flames are useful to me. One of the experts from the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan coldly spoke. After which, he abruptly pointed a finger towards Purgatory. At the same time, the Ice Elemental expert stepped forth and slammed out with a palm imprint, freezing everything in its path as it slammed into Purgatory. Purgatory's body shuddered violently, but she remained motionless. This evil creature is really persistent. I really want to tame it. Unfortunately, it's so foolishly loyal. Another attack landed, each with a force of 1,000,000 Jin, causing Purgatory's body to tremble violently as she spat out a mouthful of blood. Even Qin Wentian, who was standing on the ground, could feel the strength of the shock wave. However, it was completely absorbed by Purgatory, and only a trace of the shock wave was transmitted to his body. Purgatory! Qin Wentian's eyes were scarlet red as he howled in rage. However, Purgatory didn't seem to hear him at all. It only had a single thought in its mind. Qin Wentian must not die. As long as it was around, Qin Wentian would be around as well. Although Little Rascal was being protected by Purgatory, it was still frenziedly spitting out astral energy. Its eyes were scarlet red, gleaming with an ominous light. Boom! A bolt of lightning smashed down, scorching the earth. Purgatory coughed out blood as cracks could be seen on its body. Fool, as expected of a vile creature. To think that you still refuse to step aside. A mocking voice rang out. After which another powerful attack slammed down. Purgatory silently endured it, but the injuries on its body grew heavier and heavier. Scram! Qin Wentian used his immense strength, wanting to force Purgatory's body apart. However, he discovered that Purgatory's defense was extremely firm, not budging an inch. The spectators outside stared at the gigantic body of Purgatory. The number of injuries on its body increased, yet it still coiled there, protecting Qin Wentian. It was as though it was telling the spectators that if they wanted to kill Qin Wentian, they had to step over its corpse first. Roar! Qin Wentian's roars rang out as a terrifying demonic qi gushed forth frenziedly. The blood in Qin Wentian's body seemed to be going berserk as a fearsome demonic energy gushed forth. It was as though his will of the mandate of demons had grown even stronger, as though it had stepped into the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian didn't feel any excitement at all. He only wanted to push Purgatory away. But even if his strength increased explosively, it was useless. Purgatory wouldn't leave even if it died. The spectators outside stood there, not continuing their attacks. Right now, they were all stunned by Purgatory's loyalty. Under such a barrage of attacks, if it was an ordinary demonic beast, it would have died countless times already. However, the Purgatory vermilion bird continued to protect Qin Wentian. This was its conviction. Qin Wentian was even more important than its own life. Staring at the weakening aura of the Purgatory vermilion bird, the countenances of the spectators grew incredibly unsightly. This demonic beast's defense is truly strong. Even that little bastard is the same. We can't kill it no matter what. In fact, They even felt somewhat jealous of Qin Wentian for having two demonic beasts as his companions. Strong and loyal. Continue attacking. Since it cannot be tamed, we can only kill it. A cold voice rang out. The spectators were all extremely depressed. They actually couldn't even kill a single demonic beast. Yes. An expert nodded. After that he stepped forth, appearing before Purgatory. He lifted his palm as a terrifying energy gushed forth. His fingers seemed to be imbued with a golden sword that could penetrate through everything. Pressing down with a single finger, he shot towards Purgatory. But right at this moment, the weak and silent Purgatory suddenly erupted with a terrifying might. Buzz. The huge body of the Purgatory vermilion bird moved. In an instant, it spat out a Purgatory fire lotus, directly engulfing that expert. Argh. The blink of an eye. The expert's body was burned to ashes. Below Purgatory, a shocking scene appeared. It was unknown how much astral light little rascal had spat out, but Purgatory had been continuously swallowing it, accumulating energy. It didn't use any energy to resist, it was accumulating energy to attack, not wanting to waste the slightest bit of energy. These astral lights floated in the air, cascading onto Purgatory's body. Other than this, Qin Wentian's wrist had already been sliced open. His fingers pierced into Purgatory's body as fresh blood flowed from his wrist, seeping into Purgatory's body. Earlier, he was feeding Purgatory the power of his bloodline. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with coldness, piercing into the eyes of those who looked at him. Such coldness could freeze the bodies of those who looked at him. Just a single glance from him was sufficient to cause despair in their hearts. Purgatory let out a long howl as it frenziedly spat out more hellfire, sweeping through the entire space. Yet another person was incinerated, his body completely unextinguished. Go. With a loud shout, everyone hurriedly retreated. However, they only saw Purgatory rushing out, its hellfire sweeping through everything. Qin Wentian followed behind it, his blood still flowing into Purgatory's body. Purgatory unleashed its ferocious might. The experts from the various powers hurriedly brought their own geniuses and retreated. Release the seal. A loud shout rang out. The experts from the Yin clan released the seal, allowing the Purgatory vermilion bird to continue rushing forward. Leave quickly. The expressions of those experts turned extremely ugly to behold as they hurriedly fled. They didn't expect that the Purgatory vermilion bird would suddenly become so violent. The Purgatory vermilion bird didn't chase after them. Its aura was rapidly weakening, but it still floated in the air, staring at the fleeing experts. Qin Wentian stood below Purgatory, the blood in his body seethed madly. Not long ago, when he was in a frenzied state, he could faintly sense that there was another kind of terrifying power within his demonic bloodline. It was just that he hadn't activated it yet, hence, he decided to channel the power of his bloodline into Purgatory's body. However, in order to protect Qin Wentian, Purgatory didn't use any of its energy to attack. It didn't care about its life at all, only focusing on accumulating energy. This was why after Qin Wentian channeled the power of his bloodline into its body, in addition to the combined efforts of it and Little Rascal, it was able to ignite its own energy and unleash such a terrifying combat prowess. However, Qin Wentian understood that this was merely a flash in the pan. Purgatory had almost exhausted all of its energy. Pooh! Purgatory's body fell downwards. Its entire body was incomparably weak. It no longer had any strength left. Qin Wentian hugged its body as that gigantic body pressed down on him. Purgatory's eyes were still open as it stared at Qin Wentian with a gentle smile on its face. It had done it. It had protected Qin Wentian from death. In that case, everything it had done was worth it. Staring at the smile in Purgatory's eyes, Qin Wentian felt pain in his heart. Purgatory was a demonic spirit. Protecting him was its strongest obsession. If he was born, it would be born. If it wanted him to die, it would die first. This was the love of demonic spirits. How many people in the mortal world could compare to it? Because it was born because of him. In that case, it would also die because of him. Little Rascal flew over. Its eyes were red as well, filled with tears. It was sentient and similarly contained intense emotions. It had always depended on Qin Wentian for survival. After that, it devoured purgatory and gained emotions. But Qin Wentian was their only protector. Purgatory was the same as it. It was willing to give up its life to protect him. Qin Wentian stared at the two demonic beasts, feeling warmth in his heart. But when he thought of what happened earlier, his heart ached again. In this life, I won't let you down. Qin Wentian stared at the two demonic beasts. His eyes were moist, but a warm smile could be seen on his face. He then spoke to Purgatory. My bloodline is able to give birth to demons. Purgatory, enter my bloodline first. As he spoke, his hands landed on Purgatory's body. In an instant, Purgatory's body was directly absorbed into his bloodline. Purgatory's body entered his bloodline, circulating within his body. Little Rascal's eyes brightened. Its heart was similarly moved. In this life, I won't let you down. Yeah. A light sound rang out as Little Rascal soared up into the air. A pair of wings appeared on its back as it floated in the air. It lowered its head and stared at the horizon as it called out. Qin Wentian. This voice was extremely childish and unclear, but Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a resplendent light. He inclined his head and stared at the silhouette in the air as the smile in his eyes grew even more intense. This was the first time Little Rascal spoke. Qin Wentian. His eyes slowly turned over, staring in the direction of Xianqing City. The smile on his face vanished, replaced by a cold light. This hatred shall be repaid with blood. Chapter 499. Atop the desolate mountain, the white-robed young man's robes were dyed red with blood. His eyes gleamed with a cold light, causing the temperature of the entire space to drop drastically. Xianqing City, all the geniuses were waiting. With a flicker of his silhouette, Qin Wentian carried Little Rascal in his arms as he sped away like the wind. Evidently, he couldn't stay here any longer. Now that Purgatory had been absorbed into his bloodline, it would be able to recuperate within his bloodline. Qin Wentian also didn't know why his ancient demonic bloodline would suddenly have a different kind of ability. He could only speculate that this might have something to do with the immortal vanquishing swordplay he had absorbed earlier. The blood in the pool was incinerated by the immortal vanquishing swordplay, and some of it was absorbed by his bloodline, stimulating his demonic bloodline, causing it to become even more violent. This was also the reason why he was able to step into the transformation realm of the second level of demons so quickly. Lowering his head, he stared at the injured Little Rascal in his arms only to see Little Rascal tilting its head upwards as it spoke in a baby voice. Little Rascal. Yes, Little Rascal. When Qin Wentian heard this voice, the dark clouds in his heart seemed to have dispersed. A gentle smile appeared on his face, as he gently stroked Little Rascal's head. Don't like. Huan. Little Rascal's lips twitched as it shook its head. This was the first time it used its human voice to express its dissatisfaction towards the name Qin Wentian gave it. Haha, I've already gotten used to it after so long. Qin Wentian lightly flicked Little Rascal's head. Momentarily, Little Rascal furrowed its brows as a look of grievance flashed in its eyes. After learning how to speak, Little Rascal was becoming more and more human-like. The silhouettes of a man and a demonic beast gradually faded away, leaving this desolate mountain range as they headed towards the depths of the heavenly mountain range. In the Xianqing City, there were many rumors circulating around. It was rumored that during the Heavenly Mountain Treasure Seizing Assembly, a young man in white appeared. This young man claimed that his surname was Qin and that he snatched away Shang Yu's spatial brush, humiliated Yin Cheng and Jin Zhan, and was incomparably arrogant. After that, he inscribed divine inscriptions and killed Grandmaster Qiu. Not only so, it was rumored that a mysterious realm had appeared. In this mysterious realm, the geniuses of the various major powers led their experts to explore it, and discovered that the mysterious realm was actually the burial ground of a legendary expert. The celestial constellation fruit trees were born there, and the various major powers fought over it. However, this young man surnamed Qin suddenly appeared out of nowhere and fought against all the experts, killing more than half of them. He even fought against the combined forces of 6 geniuses, and after that, he managed to escape unscathed with half of the celestial constellation fruits. What was even more shocking was that this young man's cultivation base was only at the 3rd level of Heavenly Dipper. For him, the Heavenly Rock Aristocrat clan brought out the 10,000 miles tracking mirror. The Een clan brought out a sealing treasure, and the experts from the Heavenly Rock Aristocrat clan once again tried to find the young man in white. However, all of them returned in low spirits with heavy casualties. There were even 2 experts at the 3rd level of Heavenly Dipper who died. As for what exactly happened in that battle, nobody knew. But that young man in white who had never appeared before in the Xian King city was rumored to have 3 heads and 6 arms. As for the young man in white right now, he was still bitterly cultivating in the Heavenly Mountain Range. In the depths of the Heavenly Mountain Range, there was a wondrous scene. Qin Wentian sat on the peak of a mountain as he stared ahead. Over there, snowflakes drifted about, and the endless mountain range was completely covered in ice and snow, exuding an extremely cold intent. This piece of land seemed to be separated into 2 parts. One part was covered in ice and snow, while the other was covered in ice and snow. There wasn't a single snowflake at all on Qin Wentian's side. Qin Wentian sat there cross-legged, holding 2 constellation fruits in his hands. One was a dark red fruit that could cause one's heart to throb, while the other was a fruit that contained the will of the mandate of Great Earth within it. He didn't directly swallow it. This fruit contained an intense mandate of Great Earth, allowing one to sense it unceasingly. If he directly swallowed it, there might be a miraculous effect, but after that there would be nothing left. It was best to swallow it at the most crucial moment. Qin Wentian quietly held the constellation fruits in his hands. His heartbeat was extremely fast, yet there was a certain rhythm to it. With every heartbeat, every meridian in his body seemed to be pulsating along with it. And that Great Earth fruit could even allow him to sense the pulsation of the earth. It was as though the earth itself was beating just like his heartbeat. Qin Wentian entered a state of selflessness, fully immersing himself in sensing the pulsation of the earth, forgetting his own heartbeat as he entered an ethereal state. Following the pulsation of the earth, his perception unceasingly extended outwards. Gradually, the rate of his heartbeat slowed down. Gradually, it stabilized, no longer beating as intensely as before. It was as though his heartbeat had entered the same rhythm as the pulsation of the earth. This feeling was as though he was a part of the earth. His body had fused together with the earth. As his cultivation base grew stronger, Qin Wentian could even comprehend the mandate of Great Earth. But because he didn't have an astral soul of the mandate of Great Earth, there was no way for him to condense an astral nova. Even if he could comprehend it, the effect would be weaker compared to his own mandate of Great Earth. Not only that, he would require more time to cultivate. After all, right now he was only able to enter this state because of the constellation fruits. After a long period of time, Qin Wentian's heartbeat was so calm that it almost stopped. Exhaling, he opened his eyes and stretched lazily, feeling extremely comfortable. The feeling of entering this state every day was simply too wonderful. It was as though the earth itself was his muscles, bones, blood, and flesh, pulsating along with his heartbeat. It's about time for my mandate of force to break through. Qin Wentian stood up and walked towards the mountain rampart. His perception extended outwards as he punched out with his fist. That seemingly calm punch slammed into the mountain rampart, causing a terrifying shockwave to rapidly extend outwards. The pulsation of the entire mountain rampart grew even more intense, and after which, cracking sounds rang out as cracks appeared, resembling spider webs. Shatter. Qin Wentian's palms trembled as he lightly spoke. An instant later, a thunderous boom rang out as the mountain rampart in front of him was reduced to dust. A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he spoke in a low voice. Indeed, the mandate of force and the mandate of Great Earth have some similarities. The second-level mandate of force I've comprehended is the void shockwave. Isn't that a type of pulsation as well? The pulsations of the mandate of force would be able to spread outwards, destroying everything in its path. Right now, my second-level mandate of force has also broken through to the transformation boundary. Right now, of the 4 types of mandates, the mandate of force, the mandate of demons, and the mandate of swords, had all broken through to the transformation boundary of the second level. As for the mandate of dreams, Di Tian was currently cultivating the great dream immortal art in the royal tomb. He could faintly sense that his mandate of dreams was also on the verge of breaking through. Most probably, it wouldn't be long before all 4 of his mandates would break through to the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. A bright light flashed as the Scarlet Demon halberd appeared in Qin Wentian's hands. His silhouette flickered as he stepped into the vast expanse of snow. Snow and ice drifted down from the skies as Qin Wentian pierced out with his halberd, seeking to find the strongest power in each of his halberd strikes. When he first stepped onto the path of cultivation, Qin Wentian already knew the tempered thousand hammer refinement art. Any type of innate technique could be transformed into a qualitative one through quantitative changes. Right now he had many methods at his disposal, yet it was extremely difficult for him to fuse them all into one, achieving a perfect fusion point. For example, the halberd arts he had created in the past weren't suitable for the current him. They were too weak. However, what if he were to fuse his comprehensions and mandates into his halberd arts? He would definitely be able to unleash 10 to 100 times more power. But how could such a fusion be achieved so easily? This was a process of creation. He needed to continuously temper his halberd arts before he knew if there was a possibility of success. The boundless snowflakes brought with them a bone-piercing chill. Yet it was as though the white-robed young man couldn't sense it at all. From start to end, he was clad in a thin white robe, as though he wanted to fuse as one with the snowflakes. Only the halberd arts he executed seemed to be perfecting themselves. A day passed. 7 days passed. In the blink of an eye, 9 days passed. The white-robed young man was still the same as before. He had already lost count of how many halberd strikes he had executed, but right now he could already unleash his halberd strikes soundlessly. It wasn't that there was no sound, it was just that the speed of his attacks was simply too fast. The silhouette of the white-robed young man flickered as he stared at the snowy mountain in front of him. Stepping out, his halberd slashed out like a dragon, causing the surrounding snowflakes to freeze. As the halberd landed, there was still no sound. However, the snowy mountain started to crumble inch by inch as the power of his halberd seeped into it. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out as the entire snowy mountain collapsed. As for the area where the halberd landed, everything was turned into dust. Still not strong enough. My strongest void formation ripples destroyed the pulsation of the entire mountain in a single strike. Qin Wentian furrowed his brows, as though he was still unsatisfied. After which he brandished his Scarlet Demon halberd again and again. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days passed. Snowflakes continued to fall. On the snowy ground, Little Rascal was sprawled on the ground, as though he was one with the snow. Behind them, atop a snowy mountain, a figure as beautiful as a snow lotus had unknowingly appeared there, quietly observing the white-robed young man as he practiced his halberd strikes. Several hours later, the white-robed young man stopped once again. In his eyes, a hint of a smile could be seen. My mandate of dreams has reached the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. Qin Wentian smiled. Right now, all 4 of his mandates had stepped into the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. If he encountered the 6 chosen again, Qin Wentian would definitely be able to kill them all. Even if the 6 of them ganged up on him, it would be the same. One must know that a few days ago, when he fought against the 6 chosen, his greatest reliance was his sword. The 7 annihilation swordplay, his mandate of swords was only at the transformation boundary. Now he had 4 different mandates. As though he had sensed something, Qin Wentian turned and saw the silhouette atop the snowy mountain. His eyes that were as bright as the stars in the night sky involuntarily brightened. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he appeared on the snowy mountain. That cold silhouette stared at him, her eyes gleaming with intelligence, yet she still didn't like to speak. These 2 constellation fruits are the mandate of space, they should be useful to you. Qin Wentian passed the fruits over to Qing. Qing'er glanced at them but she didn't stretch her hands out. Qing'er, take them. Qin Wentian commanded. Oh, Qing, replied in a crisp voice as she stretched her hands out to receive the constellation fruits. However, the expression on her face was still the same. It was unknown what she was thinking in her heart. I'm leaving. Qin Wentian turned. His silhouette flickered as he stepped into the vast expanse of ice and snow once again. Staring at his back, The lines on Qing Er's face twitched as a smile appeared on her face. This smile of hers seemed to be able to melt all the ice and snow in this world. Chapter 500. Qin Wentian returned to the snowy ground, brandishing his scarlet demon halberd unceasingly. Sometimes, there was only a single movement, but he would consecutively brandish the halberd hundreds of times, or even thousands of times. He was constantly adjusting himself, improving himself. Little rascal continued to lay there, watching. Qing Er also stood there quietly. She didn't participate in that battle and only found Qin Wentian after that. However, she could faintly sense that Qin Wentian must have experienced something. His love, his hate, all of these would transform into his actions, becoming his obsessions, causing him to use all methods to improve himself. Qin Wentian was such a person. In this world, other than the 16-year-old Qin Wentian, Qin Chuan and Qin Yao were the ones who accompanied Qin Wentian the most. The one who stayed by his side the longest after he started cultivating was none other than Qin Er. Although the amount of time Qin Er spent by Qin Wentian's side wasn't very long, Qin Er knew all of his actions. There were many things Qin Er didn't understand because no one had taught her before. But with regards to Qin Wentian, she understood him very well. She understood his habits and understood his obsessions. Lowering her head, she stared at the constellation fruit in her hands. Her beautiful eyes flickered as a warm current flowed through her heart. It was very rare for her to have such a feeling, but this time around, she felt it. It was as though many of the things she had done were all worth it. Under thousands of tempering, Qin Wentian's halberd arts grew stronger and stronger. If someone fought against him, they would even see illusions when he struck out with his halberd. After several days, Qin Wentian finally stopped his halberd practice. He sat on the snowy ground and took out the dark red constellation fruit. This constellation fruit was able to cause one's heart to palpitate unceasingly. In fact, it was able to allow him to sense each and every part of his body. The mandate contained within it was akin to the will of the heart. This kind of energy, if I can infuse it into the Heartbreak Ancient Bell, the might of the Heartbreak Ancient Bell would surely be even more terrifying. Qin Wentian mused. After which, he closed his eyes and quietly contemplated. Within the royal tomb, Di Tian was also cultivating. Both of them were cultivating and comprehending at the same time. Qin Wentian improved day by day, growing stronger and stronger. In the night, the snowflakes continued to fall unceasingly. A white-robed silhouette quietly laid in the midst of the snow. From the heavens, resplendent beams of light cascaded downwards, as though there were 4 constellations shooting out beams of light that landed on Qin Wentian's body. The energy from the constellations unceasingly flowed into his body, and within his Yuanfu, his astral nova slowly solidified. During the day he would wake up again to cultivate. How many days and nights had he passed like this? As though he would never know fatigue. At a place extremely far away from Qin Wentian, a few silhouettes could be seen flying through the air. The person in the lead was an old man who looked extremely ordinary, around 50 years of age. He didn't exude any aura at all, but his eyes were filled with spirit. His hair was as white as snow, causing him to be even more compatible with this place. To think that there's actually a little child cultivating here. The old man mumbled in a low voice. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through space, landing on Qin Wentian, who was currently cultivating on the snowy ground. With a casual smile, the old man continued walking. But an instant later he halted his steps, as a serious expression flickered in his eyes. Interesting, his second-level mandate has already reached the transformation boundary. Yet his cultivation base is only at the 3rd level of Heavenly Dipper. This old man was able to see through Qin Wentian with a single glance. Although he was spying on Qin Wentian didn't seem to notice his existence at all. Looking at his age, he should be around 25 years of age. It's already extremely rare for his cultivation base to reach this level. Not only that, his mandate is also so powerful, much stronger compared to the disciples chosen by those good-for-nothing fellows. The old man shook his head, feeling somewhat depressed as he continued on his way. His silhouette was like a gust of wind, bringing the person beside him with him as he sped past not far away from Qin Wentian. And at this moment, Qin Wentian, who was in the midst of his cultivation, suddenly furrowed his brows as he halted his steps. Wielding the scarlet demon halberd in his hands, he stared in the direction of the old man as he coldly asked, "Who's spying on me?" The old man abruptly halted his steps, his gaze piercing through space as a smile appeared on his face. Interesting, a little fellow at the 3rd level of Heavenly Dipper was actually able to discover me. Stepping out, his silhouette instantly appeared in front of Qin Wentian. As he stared at Qin Wentian with interest, Qin Wentian's countenance flickered. With the lesson from last time, he was now exceptionally vigilant. However, as he swept his gaze over, he couldn't help but feel astonishment in his heart. He couldn't see through the cultivation base of this old man at all. With a single glance, he could tell that this old man was just an ordinary old man. Beside him were 2 attendants that resembled children, and both of them were extremely powerful as well. Qin Wentian had no way to resist an expert of this level. He could only hope that this old man wasn't someone from the powers that the 6 chosen belonged to. In Qin Wentian's hands, a scroll had already appeared. What a vigilant fellow. "Are you afraid that I will eat you up?" The old man laughed as he stared at Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian didn't dare to let his guard down. Little Rascal had already stealthily appeared beside him, and Qin was also moving closer. "Junior has an enemy chasing after me, so I have no choice but to be more vigilant." "Senior, who are you?" Qin Wentian asked. "Haha, what an interesting little doll. If I were your enemy, would you still have the chance to use the spatial scroll?" The old man had a playful smile on his face, after which, he made a grabbing motion in the air, and instantly, Qin Wentian's body was sealed in ice, unable to move at all. His body was directly lifted up into the air. "Release him." Qin stepped out, her quick-witted eyes stared at the old man as she coldly spoke, as an intense cold intent gushed forth from her. "Bastard." Little Rascal's silhouette flickered as he similarly appeared in front of Qin Wentian, glaring at the old man as a baleful light flashed in his eyes. However, this didn't match the childlike voice of Little Rascal. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Such strength was simply too overwhelming. Indeed, given Little Rascal's strength, if it was someone from the 6 chosen powers, they would have directly acted to kill him. He wouldn't even have the chance to use the spatial scroll. "You dared to call this old man a bastard?" The old man glared at Little Rascal as a baleful expression appeared on his face. How many years has it been since someone dared to scold this old man? Who would have thought that today, a little demon would actually do so? "You guys are blocking my path. Aren't you afraid that I will kill all of you? Release him." Qin was still as cold as ever, as though she didn't know how strong this old man was. The old man scrutinized Qin as he laughed in a low voice. "How interesting. Little doll, you are so beautiful and you're proficient in spatial energy. The energy stored within your body is extremely strong as well. Do you want to be my disciple?" "You're not worthy." Qin Wentian coldly spoke, causing the old man to glance at him as he giggled. "I'm not worthy? Which part of me isn't worthy?" "As an old man, you're bullying the younger generation. What qualifications do you have to be the teacher of others?" Qin Wentian coldly spoke. He was feeling extremely depressed as well. He was cultivating in this place, and he actually met an old man who was also extremely powerful. "Don't you know that strength is everything in this world? As long as you have strength, it's enough." The old man laughed as he stared at Qin Wentian. If choosing a master or disciple doesn't depend on one's character, only on strength and talent, as the teacher, if he is narrow-minded, how can he be willing to see his disciple surpass him? As for the disciple, if he doesn't remember the kindness of the master and only remembers the blame of the master, how can he not harbor hatred in his heart? It's only a matter of time before the master and disciple fall out with each other. Why is there a need to choose a master? Qin Wentian coldly spoke. "I'm just a junior. I'm cultivating here peacefully. If I've offended senior, feel free to tell me. Why must you humiliate me just because you are stronger than me? What a sharp-tongued fellow. You want to provoke me into releasing you." The old man laughed as he stared at Qin Wentian, his words causing Qin Wentian's countenance to turn extremely unsightly. This old man didn't seem to be affected by his words. Fine, this old man will release you then. The old man spoke. With a wave of his palms, the pressure on Qin Wentian vanished. Little rascal and Qing retreated back to Qin Wentian's side as they stared at the old man with vigilance. This old man's personality was extremely strange. He clearly knew that Qin Wentian was trying to provoke him, yet he still released Qin Wentian. To be able to make a demonic beast and a peerless beauty do such a thing for you, your character shouldn't be too bad. This old man will give you a chance to become my disciple. How about it? The old man stared at Qin Wentian as he smiled. If I reject, will Senior make things difficult for me? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed as he asked. I won't say a single word and will leave immediately. But you should know that there are countless people who would beg for such an opportunity. The old man narrowed his eyes. Although he exuded the aura of a transcendent being, he looked like an old urchin. I refuse. As soon as the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian bluntly spat out 2 words, causing a look of astonishment to appear on the old man's face. Staring at Qin Wentian, the smile on his face disappeared as his countenance gradually sank. This was truly embarrassing. He wanted to accept a disciple but was actually rejected. If this news were to spread out, he would have nowhere to hide his old face. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. Earlier, he had said that if Qin Wentian rejected him, he wouldn't say a single word and would leave immediately. Turning around, the old man actually started to walk away. But after walking for a short distance, he suddenly halted. The person behind him turned around and stared at Qin Wentian as he asked, "This old man still wants to know the reason." Although these words were spoken by the little boy, Qin Wentian naturally understood that he was speaking on behalf of the old man. Since the old man agreed to not say anything, Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't say anything. But even so, he couldn't help but to ask. Hence, he transmitted his voice to the little boy beside him, asking him to speak on his behalf. There's no reason. I don't want to take a master. I can still cultivate by myself and grow through tempering. Qin Wentian faintly replied. Is this considered a reason? Such an opportunity is something that countless people can only dream of. The old man seemed to be extremely depressed as he continued to speak through the little boy. Senior, you really only think of yourself. Junior doesn't even know your identity. Just because you are strong, I want to take you as my master and follow you? Qin Wentian's voice was ice cold as he continued. If that's the case, isn't Senior looking down on the geniuses of this world too much? Even if Senior's strength is truly strong, this Junior has only cultivated for less than 10 years, and has already reached the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. Although I don't dare to say that I'm outstanding, I don't want to belittle myself either. If I cultivated to Senior's age, how could I be at Senior's level? Arrogant. This time the old man was the one who spoke, staring at Qin Wentian. But as the sound of his voice faded, he flicked his sleeves and directly departed. Chapter 501. Only after the old man left did Qin Wentian heave a sigh of relief. That old man was too strong and had an eccentric personality. Qin Wentian tried to goad him into joining and it actually worked. As for the words he said after that, half of it was to provoke the old man away, while the other half was from his heart. From the start of his cultivation till now, he had never met someone whose astral soul was more outstanding than his. And among those at the same cultivation level, he had never met someone whose combat prowess was stronger than his. Qin Wentian didn't dare to say that there were none in this world. After all, the world was too vast, so vast that he couldn't even see through it despite being at the peak of the 3rd level of Heavenly Dipper. However, Qin Wentian at least had an intense confidence in himself. This was his conviction. Putting this matter aside, Qin Wentian brandished his scarlet demon halberd and continued his cultivation. Since it was a false alarm, nothing would be able to affect his state of heart and disrupt his cultivation. Right now, his cultivation base had already broken through to the 3rd level of Heavenly Dipper, and all 4 of his mandates were at the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. His state of heart was also sufficient, and he could faintly sense that he wasn't too far away from the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper. Although cultivation was boring, As long as one's heart was set on it, no matter how boring it was, one would still be able to maintain the passion to strive for it. Although the old man had departed, he didn't leave the area completely. He went to a faraway place and sat cross-legged on a snowy mountain. Qin Wentian's every action was seen by him. This old man originally had something to do and passed by here. Who would have thought that I would meet a bastard like you? Ignorant, arrogant, and infuriating. I really want to see how capable you are. The white-haired old man seemed to be extremely depressed as he mumbled to himself. The little boy behind him didn't say anything, yet he was depressed in his heart as well. That fellow was really... How many people dreamed of entering the ancestors' tutelage? Yet he actually rejected it. The ancestor's personality was eccentric. Sometimes he would be calm and steady, and sometimes he would be as mischievous as a youth. He would do whatever he wanted, disregarding the opinions of others. But today he was actually offended by a junior. He must be feeling extremely depressed in his heart. When had he ever been rejected by anyone before? He sat there for a full 30 days. The old man saw many things that he couldn't see in the past. It seemed to be an extremely boring thing, but the old man could sit there quietly for 30 days. In the past 30 days he saw the human and demonic beast companions helping each other in times of hardship. That kind of affection could be seen from their smiles. He also saw a kind of protectiveness. The girl seemed to be cultivating, but her attention was often on Qin Wentian. This kind of protectiveness surprised him. Who was this boy? How could he be worthy of such a beautiful woman's attention? He saw a kind of persistence, a kind of obsession. Every strike of the halberd, every sword, and every palm contained perseverance. It was as if he would never feel tired, never feel dull, and always be full of vigor. Every time he failed to break through to the next realm, he did not give up. Instead, he was cautious and determined to start all over again. He didn't know who this young man was or what he had experienced, but his character and persistence gradually made the old man's gaze turn solemn. The old man had seen countless people in his life. When he judged people, he had never only judged them based on their talent. On the contrary, when he told Qin Wentian that in this world, strength reigned supreme, he was also probing Qin Wentian. He wanted to see Qin Wentian's reaction. In truth, although Qin Wentian had angered him, he wasn't angry at all. Because Qin Wentian's words were in line with his personality. If not, no matter how high Qin Wentian's talent was, he wouldn't waste any more time here. The reason why he stayed was because he wanted to see clearly. During this 1 month, although the things that happened there were simple, it caused him to be extremely moved. For a person to cultivate an innate technique, practicing it once, 10 times, or 100 times wasn't considered much. Practicing it 1,000 times could be considered as hard work. But if one didn't want to stop practicing it 10,000 times, or even 100,000 times, just to perfect a single halberd strike, with such a stubborn heart, in addition to his talent, it would be extremely difficult for him to not become a towering figure. Although the words of the young man were arrogant, they weren't fake. He used his own hard work and talent to support his arrogance. This young man has great potential. The old man murmured. After which, he closed his eyes and sank into a state of absolute silence. In a place extremely far away from Xianqing City, there was a region where experts were as common as the clouds. And in this region, there was a hegemon named the Royal Sacred Sect. The Royal Sacred Sect had been established for countless years, and it controlled the 9 great sects, 3 empires, as well as a boundlessly vast territory. The geniuses of these powers would constantly be sent into the Royal Sacred Sect, and the various factions would compete with each other to distinguish themselves, gradually revealing their brilliance and becoming the leaders of the various factions in the Royal Sacred Sect. The Royal Sacred Sect that encompassed the various factions, how glorious and powerful was it? It was simply unimaginable. However, after countless years of development, the various factions of the Royal Sacred Sect were actually closely related to the 9 great sects and the 3 great royal cities. The 9 sects and 3 empires were all vassals to the various factions of the Royal Sacred Sect. The Battle Sword Sect was the most unique among the 9 sections. The number of people in this sect was the lowest, and their numbers couldn't even be compared to Grand Shang and Grand Zhou. Hence, there was a saying that the battle sword sect was the weakest among the 9 sections. However, no one dared to look down on the battle sword sect. Although the battle sword sect had the lowest number of members, every few years, there would always be a peerless genius emerging from the battle sword sect. Not only that, the personalities of the people in the battle sword sect were all different from the rest. They were arrogant and unyielding, wielding their swords to conquer the world. At this moment, within the battle sword sect, although there weren't many people in the battle sword sect, anyone who stepped into this place would definitely be a dazzling character that could dazzle an entire region. However, at this moment, several powerful characters of the battle sword sect had solemn expressions on their faces as they walked in the direction of a great hall. The auras of this group of people were all extraordinary. Any random one of them was an extremely outstanding character. Their eyes shone with a bright light as they stepped into the great hall. Expressions of respect could be seen on their faces as they lowered their heads slightly. It was as though the object in front of them was an extremely precious treasure. But in reality, there was only a statue there. However, this statue was glowing with a faint light, as though it was a living creature. Master has manifested his will. I wonder what instructions do you have for me? The person in the lead had an extraordinary demeanor, akin to a sharp sword. Despite facing the statue, he was still respectful as he asked. The statue in front of him was none other than his master. His master had long since joined the royal sacred sect, and was currently roaming the world. Normally, it would be very difficult to meet him. Even for him, it had been many years since he last saw his master. When his master manifested his will, it would usually be for extremely important matters. But this time around, it was unknown why his master manifested his will. A bright light shone from the statue as a projection appeared in front of everyone. Within it, the silhouette of Qin Wentian could be seen. This young man is currently cultivating in the heavenly mountain range outside Xianqing City. I want him to grow up in the battle sword sect, and in the future when the royal sacred sect recruits disciples, I want him to enter the royal sacred sect. The voice of the statue was solemn, causing the gazes of everyone to be fixated on the silhouette in the projection, as they silently committed this person to memory. We obey Master's orders. The person in the lead bowed to the statue, agreeing to this matter. Remember, this matter is extremely important. You have to treat it seriously. The statue spoke again, his words causing the hearts of everyone to be filled with shock. They all knew what sort of character that old man was. Yet he was actually so concerned about a young man. From this, one could see how important this young man was. Right. The person in the lead was none other than the current sect leader of the battle sword sect. He nodded his head once more as he spoke. I will personally oversee this matter. I will definitely accomplish it. In addition, the commotion must be as great as possible. And at the same time, don't let him know that this is my command. It's best if he can make his own decision. The statue spoke again. The sect leader of the battle sword sect nodded his head once more. Okay, I'm leaving. As the sound of the voice faded, the statue dimmed, causing the eyes of everyone to gleam with sharpness. This was especially so for the sect leader of the battle sword sect. A strange look flashed in his eyes. His master didn't even say a single word more, all for the sake of a young man. An instant later, the battle sword sect leader brought his men out of the great hall, and issued an order to inform the 9 great sects as well as the Grand Shang Empire that their battle sword sect was going to recruit disciples in Xianqing City. As this order was sent out, the entire battle sword sect was shaken. This was the first time their battle sword sect was recruiting disciples outside of their sect. In the past, it had always been others who were recruited by the battle sword sect. There was no other reason other than because the battle sword sect was the sect with the most freedom, the most unbridled and frivolous among the 9 great sections. Not only that, the location was set to be one of the royal cities of Grand Shang Empire, Xianqing City. If this news were to circulate out, it was unknown how great of a commotion it would cause. They were all extremely curious as to what was going on with their sect leader. Why would he issue such a ridiculous order? However, since this was a direct order from their sect leader, they could only ensure that it was carried out strictly. At this moment, Qin Wentian had no idea that an intense storm was about to erupt because of him in Xianqing City. When the news spread to Xianqing City, No one would have guessed that the source of everything was the white-robed young man who was cultivating in the heavenly mountain range. At this moment, Qin Wentian was frenziedly absorbing the astral energy in his body. His yuan fu and arterial pathways were churning, and his astral novas were humming. A towering might gushed forth from him, incomparably violent. Evidently, he was already on the verge of breaking through. This scene lasted for an entire half a day. Finally, a cracking sound rang out as Qin Wentian's bones and meridians began to move. His yuan fu revolved frenziedly as his astral novas grew even more resplendent. His cultivation base had already stepped into the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper. Opening his eyes, the white-robed young man had a satisfied smile on his face. The beautiful eyes of the female protector on the peak of the snowy mountain also gleamed with a bright light. From afar, in a place where Qin Wentian couldn't see, the old man stood up. His face was flushed red, as though he had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "Bastard, do you think you can escape from this old man's palms? Let's see how much of a storm you can create." The old man laughed heartily, but soon after his countenance changed. "Damn, I seem to have delayed things for too long." After speaking, his silhouette transformed into a gust of wind, instantly departing the area, bringing the person behind him along with him. It was as though he had never appeared here before. Chapter 502. Qin Wentian naturally didn't know what the old man was doing. After his cultivation base broke through to the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper, he could clearly feel the changes in his body. He felt even stronger than before, and he couldn't wait for a battle to break out. Back then, the 6 great geniuses of Xianqing City, who ganged up on him, all had a cultivation base at the 5th level of Heavenly Dipper. If Qin Wentian were to face them now, Qin Wentian had absolute confidence that he would be able to suppress them all. I wonder how Purgatory's recovery is going. Qin Wentian's bloodline thrummed as it seethed with power. Instantly, a blood-colored light emanated from his body, transforming into a gigantic shadow. This shadow gradually solidified. It was none other than the Purgatory vermilion bird. Back then, in order to protect him, Purgatory had almost lost its life in that battle. Qin Wentian just so happened to sense the changes in his bloodline. Hence he decided to swallow Purgatory into his bloodline to recuperate. Right now, although Purgatory could already take form, it was still in a weakened state. It had yet to fully recover. When it saw Qin Wentian, it instantly let out a few long screeches as an expression of excitement flickered in its eyes. Qin Wentian was safe and sound. In fact, his aura had grown even stronger than before. Busy. Little rascal instantly leapt onto Purgatory's body. After which, it stretched out its paws and rubbed Purgatory's head as it spoke in a baby-like voice. "Little fellow." Purgatory's flapping wings froze, its body unmoving. The hair on its forehead stood on end as its eyes darted about, as though it was stunned by the words "little fellow" spoken by Little Rascal. Qin Wentian involuntarily laughed uproariously when he heard Little Rascal's voice. Little Rascal's voice was so baby-like, yet it was still rubbing Purgatory's head and calling it "little fellow." This was completely imitating what he did to Little Rascal. "Purgatory, rest well. Don't bother about Little Rascal." Qin Wentian smiled. Purgatory let out 2 screeches and nodded its head lightly. A moment later, the blood-colored light returned to Qin Wentian's body. Little Rascal floated in the air, baring its fangs and claws at Qin Wentian. It stared at Qin Wentian with a look of disdain. "Don't call me Little Rascal anymore. Talk to me again when you can speak more fluently." Qin Wentian laughed. After which, he walked up and pulled Little Rascal into his embrace. His silhouette flickered as he soared through the air. An instant later, he appeared before Qing and spoke. "Qing, I'm going to make a trip to Xianqing City. Just act the same as before, don't show your face." Qing beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Qin Wentian, only to see Qin Wentian smiling. "Don't worry, I'll be careful. Don't forget, I can change my appearance." Although they managed to track me back then, they must have tracked the aura I left behind. Now my aura has long dissipated, and I've also changed my identity. Who would know that I'm Qin Wentian? In any case, even if I meet with danger, I'll flee immediately. Qing stared at Qin Wentian before lightly nodding her head. Also, help me take care of this little rascal. Qin Wentian patted little rascal on its head. Quickly transform into a puppy. Little rascal inclined its head and stared at Qin Wentian with an aggrieved expression on its face. After which, its body transformed into a real puppy, and it leaped into Qing embrace. Qing's hands trembled slightly, but she still gently hugged Little Rascal. Little Rascal was very cooperative as it snuggled into her embrace, causing Qin Wentian to glare at it. What a lecherous fellow. I'll let you off lightly. Qin Wentian laughed, his words causing Qing to stare at him unblinkingly. I'm just casually saying it, Qing. Or just pretend you didn't hear it. Qin Wentian laughed awkwardly. After which, his silhouette flickered as he soared through the air. The heavenly mountain range was boundlessly vast, mysterious and unfathomable. Qin Wentian actually took 3 days before he exited the heavenly mountain range, arriving at the Xianqing city. Right now, it had already been several months since the treasure-seizing assembly of the heavenly mountain. The treasure-seizing assembly had already ended, and right now, there were only a few people left on the mountain peaks. Many of them were here to cultivate or to explore the depths of the heavenly mountain. Right now, Qin Wentian had already changed his appearance, but he was still as young as ever. He was clad in black and exuded a grave and stern aura, causing people to feel a sense of unapproachable pressure. His demeanor was completely different from before, and if he were to meet with people from the various major powers again, it would be impossible for them to recognize him. Imagine? At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as he stared in a certain direction. On the peak of a certain mountain peak, there was actually a silhouette of a maiden staring into the depths of the heavenly mountain, as though she was waiting for something. What caused Qin Wentian to be taken aback was that he was acquainted with this maiden. She was none other than Ji Shui, and after he obtained the constellation fruits, not only did she not bite the hand that fed her, she even wanted to help him. Sadly, her strength wasn't high enough, and if she were to help, she would only be courting death. Qin Wentian didn't blame Su Feng and Ji Shui for not helping him back then. He wasn't a cruel and unkind person, and in that situation, if they acted, it would be equivalent to courting death. If it was him in their shoes, he wouldn't have acted either. After all, although he had saved them before, the relationship between them hadn't reached the point where they could go through life and death together. Although Su Feng had a cold exterior, his character wasn't bad. As for Ji Shui, she was more passionate and gentle. Although she wasn't as beautiful as Shang Yu, Qin Wentian felt more comfortable looking at Ji Shui compared to Shang Yu. Qin Wentian stepped out, and an instant later, he arrived at a location not far away from Ji Shui. Ji Shui turned her head to look at him as she asked, "Sir, did you come from the depths of the heavenly mountain range?" Qin Wentian nodded his head. Back then, a great battle occurred in the heavenly mountain range, and the various major powers of Xianqing City surrounded a young man. Do you know of this matter? Ji Shui couldn't help but to continue asking when she saw Qin Wentian nodding his head. I know, Qin Wentian replied. In that case, did you know of the ending of the battle when you were in the depths of the heavenly mountain range? It was rumored that the experts of the major powers all returned in defeat, but that young man's cultivation base was only at the 3rd level of Heavenly Dipper. How did he contend against them? Is he still alive now? Ji Shui stared at Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian's heart to tremble. So it turned out that Ji Shui was waiting for news of him here? Qin Wentian turned his head back, staring straight at Ji Shui as he asked, "That battle, I personally witnessed it. I naturally know the ending. However, what relationship does that young man have with you? Why are you asking about the ending of the battle?" I'm not too interested in the ending of the battle. I only want to know if that young man in white is still alive or not. Upon hearing Qin Wentian's words, Ji Shui's voice was filled with agitation. That young man is a good friend of mine. He saved my life before. Hence, I really want to know if he's still alive. Sir, please tell me. You've been staring at the heavenly mountain range from here, waiting for him to return. A strange light flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. He didn't expect that Ji Shui would care so much about his life and death. Ji Shui shook her head. I only come here once a day, waiting for 4 hours to see if I can hear any news of him. He's still alive. Qin Wentian faintly spoke, his words causing Ji Shue's eyes to flash with a bright light. After which she bowed to Qin Wentian. Many thanks, may I know your surname? Qin. Qin Wentian's voice caused Ji Shue's gaze to freeze. Surname Qin. Why were they so similar? However, the demeanor they exuded was completely different. Upon seeing Ji Shue's countenance, Qin Wentian's heart calmed down. Even if he said that his surname was Qin, Ji Shue wouldn't even dare to think about it. Naturally, no one would be able to recognize him. What a pity, if he was still alive, the 9 great sects would be recruiting disciples in the Xian King city. Such a matter is unprecedented in the history of the Xian King city. Given his talent, he would definitely be able to pass the inner disciple test of the Qinghua Mountains and become a true disciple of the Qinghua Mountains. At that time, why would he need to fear the major powers of the Xian King city? Ji Shue mumbled in a low voice. Qin Wentian's heart trembled as he asked, "The 9 great sects you speak of, are you referring to the 9 great sects under the Royal Sacred Sect?" They have already arrived in the Xian King city. Ji Shue stared at Qin Wentian as she smiled. Brother Qin, if you are interested, you can give it a try. This is the first time something like this has happened in the Xian King city. In that case, all the geniuses from the major powers of the Xian King city would all go there to give it a try. A cold light flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes. Naturally, it's rumored that this matter was initiated by the Battle Sword Sect. The Battle Sword Sect has a legacy of tens of thousands of years and has never recruited disciples outside of their sect. Although the number of people in the Battle Sword Sect is small, there's a saying in the Royal Sacred region, joining the Battle Sword Sect is equivalent to joining the Royal Sacred Sect. This time around, I have no idea why the Battle Sword Sect would come to the Xian King city. Also, I heard that after the Battle Sword Sect issued the order, within a single day, they already sent out experts to Granshang. This speed is simply too shocking. In addition, those from the other major powers all thought that the Battle Sword Sect was planning something big and hence, they all came here to recruit disciples as well. It seems like they are planning to clash with the Battle Sword Sect. In just a short few days, the Xian King city was already filled with experts from all over Granshang. I can't help but say that this matter is very strange. Ji Shue spoke in a low voice. She naturally didn't understand. Also, the secrets between the major powers wouldn't be made public. She would never have imagined that the person in front of her was none other than the person she was paying attention to. Many thanks. Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't acknowledge Ji Shue. What he wanted to do was extremely dangerous to himself. He naturally wouldn't implicate others. His silhouette flickered as he soared through the air, entering the Xian King city. After entering the Xian King city, the news that Qin Wentian heard the most was regarding the arrival of the 9 great sections. The 9 great sects were powers on the same level as the Granshang Empire. One could very well imagine how powerful they were. Because of this, the royal clan of Granshang personally came to Xian King city and was currently residing in the King Manor. During these few days, regardless of whether Qin Wentian was in an inn, or even on the streets, the topic of discussion was always about the 9 great sections. From this, one could very well imagine how intense the repercussions of this matter were. And right now, the 9 great sects were already preparing to recruit disciples in the central region of the Xian King city. As for the 9 great sects, the one that Qin Wentian heard the most was none other than the Battle Sword Sect. This Battle Sword Sect was extremely legendary. Back then, it was founded by an incomparably powerful sword cultivator. This sword cultivator was a legendary character akin to a sword immortal. When he was young, he roamed the world with a sword in his hands, acting chivalrously, unrestrained and carefree. After the founding of the Battle Sword Sect, the philosophy of the sect was one of freedom, unrestrained, and unrestrained. Not only that, they didn't accept people with good talent. In fact, there were many talented geniuses who wanted to join the Battle Sword Sect, but were all rejected. Hence, the Battle Sword Sect could be said to be the most difficult sect to join. And because of this, the Battle Sword Sect had the least number of people, and their overall strength was the weakest among the 9 great sections. However, The battle sword sect always followed their own rules, never changing the philosophy of the sect. The disciples of the battle sword sect had the greatest amount of freedom, and even if they wanted to leave the sect, no one would care. But contrary to everyone's expectations, the disciples of the battle sword sect were very united when they were outside, and their relationships were very good. Although the overall strength of the battle sword sect was the weakest out of the 9 great sects because they had too few people, in terms of individual strength, there wasn't a single sect that dared to say that they were stronger than the battle sword sect. Joining the battle sword sect was equivalent to joining the royal sacred sect. In fact, because the members of the battle sword sect were too unique, there were many disciples who didn't even want to join the royal sacred sect. Chapter 503. The War Hall was one of the major powers in the Xian King city. They were extremely famous because the members of the War Hall were proficient in forging divine weapons. The old man of the War Hall could even forge 5th-ranked divine weapons. It was just that he was already very old and his cultivation base was stuck at the Heavenly Dipper realm, unable to step into celestial phenomenon. Hence, when it came to forging divine weapons, it was already too late for him. The matters of the War Hall were all handed over to the younger generations, but there were many who inherited his legacy. Although they couldn't forge 5th-ranked divine weapons, it wouldn't be a problem for them to forge 4th-ranked ones. Today, there were several people who came to the War Hall early in the morning to forge divine weapons. However, the War Hall was already used to this. Now that the 9 great sects had arrived in the Xian King city, the experts of the Xian King city were all extremely excited. They spared no expense in forging divine weapons, all for the sake of passing the test of the 9 great sections. Among these people, there was a black-robed young man. This young man was none other than Qin Wentian. In the future, he would frequently conceal his identity. He wanted to forge other types of divine weapons, so that he could conceal his true identity from the eyes of others. What type of divine weapon do you want to forge? An attendant stood in front of Qin Wentian as he asked. A peak-tier 4th-ranked long spear, a peak-tier 4th-ranked battle axe, as well as 2 other mortal weapons that are exactly the same. Are you able to forge them? Qin Wentian asked. The eyes of the attendant flickered with a strange light as he stared at Qin Wentian. This fellow actually wanted to forge a high-grade 4th-ranked divine weapon? No. Qin Wentian frowned when he saw the attendant's silence, exuding a formless pressure. Cultivation depends on one's own combat prowess. A mid-grade 4th-ranked divine weapon is sufficient for you to display your full potential. I believe that you are doing this for the sake of the 9 great sects, right? A high-grade 4th-ranked divine weapon is already beyond the limits of your cultivation base. It's considered borrowing the power of an external force. Behind the attendant, on the stairs, stood a beautiful young lady with flawless skin. This young lady had a gentle appearance, yet she was dressed in a professional manner, exuding a valiant aura. Thanks for the reminder. Qin Wentian nodded slightly. When the woman saw that Qin Wentian didn't care about her words, she felt a bit depressed. However, this person also seemed to have an extraordinary temperament. His cold temperament gave people a feeling of sharpness. Even though he was just standing there, he gave her a faint pressure. It must be known that her cultivation was not weak at all. She was also prepared to try and see if she could pass the test of the 9 great sections. What about you guys? The lady then glanced at the requests of those beside Qin Wentian. The divine weapons they wanted to forge were all mid-grade 4th-ranked divine weapons that were more compatible with their strength. This way, others wouldn't say that they were borrowing the power of their divine weapons. The lady agreed to their requests one by one before she left. Yin Ro of the military house is becoming more and more beautiful. Her talent is also getting better and better. Seeing the girl leave, a man in yellow said with a smile, "What? Brother Huang is interested in Yin Ro?" The other person was wearing a simple white robe, and his hair was tied up. He looked very capable and experienced, and his eyes were extremely bright. Everyone loves beauty. What's so strange about that? The yellow-robed man laughed, as though he didn't care at all. However, the white-robed man mocked. "I'm afraid Yunro wouldn't be interested in you." "Humph." The yellow-robed man coldly snorted, after which, He turned his gaze to Qin Wentian as he casually asked, "Sir, are you also preparing to participate in the test of the 9 great sects? I'm afraid the 9 great sects might not be interested in you if you borrow the power of your divine weapons." "There's no need for you to worry about me," Qin Wentian faintly replied, his words causing the white-robed man to laugh. "Brother Huang, others might not appreciate your kindness. You better take care of yourself first." The yellow-robed man coldly laughed. Not long after, Yun Ro and the attendants of the military house arrived. The price for forging divine weapons had already been stated clearly outside the door. There was naturally no need for any explanations. Qin Wentian stared at the items Yun Ro passed to him. There were 2 identical axes and 2 identical spears. Naturally, this was only in terms of appearance. The aura they exuded was completely different. "Keep them well." Qin Wentian passed over a divine interspatial ring. Yun Ro received it, and after which, she sent her will into the interspatial ring. Nodding her head, she replied, "My name is Yun Ro. If you are preparing to participate in the test of the 9 great sects, why don't we travel together?" Qin Wentian glanced at Yun Ro before shaking his head. "I, Qin, prefer to travel alone. Farewell." After speaking, Qin Wentian turned and walked out of the military headquarters. Yun Ro froze for a moment before a strange light flashed in her eyes. Her curiosity towards this cold-looking young man grew stronger and stronger. Her silhouette flickered as she followed after him. The 2 young men beside her felt even more depressed. They wanted to befriend Yun Ro, but Yun Ro didn't really like them. Instead, it was that cold-looking young man who attracted her attention. In the central region of the Xian King city, the location where the 9 great sects were currently located was a vast empty space. A majestic training ground was constructed, capable of easily accommodating over 10,000 people. Around the training ground, there were many spectator stands constructed. These were all specially constructed for the recruitment of the 9 great sects this time around. In the surroundings of this training ground, it was unknown how many people there were. If one stood on the training ground and gazed downwards, they would be able to see a sea of people. 9 banners, representing the 9 great sections. In the 9 directions of the training ground, there were 9 banners, and on each of the banners there was a picture. That flag with the picture of a green mountain represents the Qinghua Mountain. The picture of a gigantic axe represents the heaven-cleaving manor. The picture of a great earth represents the Great Earth sect. The picture of lightning represents the Violet Thunder sect. The picture of a demonic dragon represents the Divine Dragon Castle. The picture of a gigantic scorpion represents the Sky Poison Valley. The picture of a devil halberd represents the Blood Devil Palace. The picture of a beautiful lady represents the Forgotten Immortal Tower. The picture of a sword represents the Battle Sword sect. The experts from the 9 great sects all personally arrived. Not only that, the area in front of the training ground didn't belong to any of the 9 great sections. Instead, it belonged to the royal clan of Grand Shang. The royal clan of Grand Shang had personally sent people over. Those from the royal clan of Grand Shang also had no idea why the 9 great sects would choose to recruit disciples in the Xian King city, and not the royal capital of Grand Shang. Not only that, it was said that the people from the 9 great sects were all from the Battle Sword sect. Ever since the Battle Sword sect was established, they had never recruited disciples outside of the Xian King city. The people from Grand Shang as well as the 9 great sects all arrived, sitting on the towering platform as they surveyed the surroundings. The hearts of the spectators below were filled with anticipation as they stared at the powerful silhouettes. This opportunity was extremely hard to come by. The 9 great sects were all superpowers on the same level as Grand Shang. If one could become a disciple of one of them, how prestigious would that be? This time around, the 9 great sects will only accept true disciples. Their cultivation bases must be at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper and below. Only those at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper would be able to stand on the training ground after passing the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. We will then see if any of the sects are willing to accept you. If the sects still wish to observe, you guys can perform well on the training ground until one of the sects is willing to accept you. At this moment, in the direction of the royal clan of Gran Shang, a person stood up and stated, "In addition, the royal clan of my Gran Shang is also willing to accept outstanding geniuses today. You guys better cherish this opportunity well." After speaking, he sat back down. The people from the 9 great sects were all very quiet, as though they were very casual. However, their gazes were fixed on the vast crowd. At this moment, the crowd was already in an uproar. The 9 great sects in Gran Shang were both recruiting disciples at the same time. This was an extremely rare opportunity. Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation. The gazes of the crowd stared in the direction of the training ground. There was a slope that was tens of meters long and tens of meters wide. On top of it, numerous gigantic drums could be seen, and beside each drum, a sharp ancient sword could be seen stabbed into the ground. In the air, there was even a lightning pearl floating there, shining its light onto the gigantic drums and ancient swords below. The slope seemed to have come to life as the sounds of the drums echoed out, accompanied by the whistling of sword chi, causing the hearts of those who heard it to tremble. This time around, the 9 great sects didn't specify how long they would be recruiting disciples. It was very possible that they would recruit until they were satisfied. Only after passing the Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation would one have the qualifications to be selected by the 9 great sections. Next, on the training ground, there would be many geniuses of the heavens chosen level. In order to attract the attention of the 9 great sects, these geniuses might even start a battle. Let me try. At this moment, a figure stepped out. This person was clad in green, and his brows were as sharp as swords. He exuded an aura of sharpness as he walked towards the Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation. At the instant he stepped onto the slope, his astral nova erupted forth as the sharpness of the swords pierced outwards. At the same time, a screen of sword chi protected him as he advanced forward. The sword formation abruptly flared up as the lightning pearl in the air flickered with a terrifying light. Violet lightning crackled as it blasted onto the gigantic drums. Instantly, the sounds of the drums shook the heavens as a pressure swept over everything. At the same time, the sword chi also blasted onto the drums, causing an incomparably chaotic killing intent to erupt forth. Because that person's speed was too fast, he only stopped when he reached the center of the formation. Scram! With a howl of rage, his astral nova blasted towards the gigantic drums on both sides. Pung pung. Terrifying sounds reverberated in the air, directly causing him to spit out fresh blood. After which, when his attacks landed on the gigantic drums, he was met with an even more terrifying rebound force. Poochie. A beam of sword light slammed into his body. Very swiftly, the sounds of the drums shook the area as millions of beams of sword light erupted forth, shredding the body of that person into pieces. Such a scene caused the spectators to be filled with awe. What a terrifying formation! How could it be so easy to enter the 9 great sects and the royal clan of Gran Shang? A powerful existence was directly shredded into pieces. Qin Wentian, who was clad in black, stood at a certain location, quietly spectating. He contemplated the members of the 9 great sects. Each of them were just like their names. Those from the Qinghua Mountains had an ethereal aura. Those from the Battle Heaven Manor exuded a sharpness that could split the heavens. As for those from the Battle Sword sect, there were only a few of them sitting there. The feeling they gave off was one of casualness. Yet within this casualness, there was a sharpness hidden within. After which, Qin Wentian turned his gaze in the direction of Gran Shang. Since the royal clan had arrived, the experts from the King Manor would naturally be there to welcome them. Hence, the experts from the King Manor were all present, including Shang-Chi and Shang-Yu. Other than them, there were also the representatives from the major powers of Xian King City. The Yin clan, Golden Fire Aristocrat clan, Windrock Aristocrat clan, etc. Is Yin Ting going to attempt it? At this moment, an expert from the King Manor stared at the young man walking towards the Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation. This young man was none other than the heaven chosen of the Yin clan, Yin Ting. The expert from the Yin clan had a smile on his face when he heard that. Let's hope there's a sect that would be interested in this young man. He was extremely confident that Yin Ting would be able to pass the Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation. This trial would definitely not be able to obstruct Yin Ting. Chapter 504. Qin Wentian stood within the crowd, inconspicuous. Upon seeing Yin Ting's appearance, his eyes flickered with killing intent. The 6 chosen ganged up on him, almost causing Little Rascal and Purgatory to die. If it wasn't for the 2 of them protecting him with their lives, he would have already died. And now, Purgatory was still heavily injured and could only survive in his bloodline. Since Yin Ting appeared today, it would be the day of his death. Beside Qin Wentian, Yunro stood there. She chased after Qin Wentian out of the military manor, feeling extremely curious about this black-robed man. But when she arrived here, she was instantly stunned by the scene before her eyes. The 9 great sects and the royal clan of Granshang had all arrived here. How shocking was this scene? Right now, Yin Ting from the Yin clan was fighting for a chance to become a disciple of the 9 great sects or join the royal clan of Granshang. This Yin Ting's strength is extremely powerful. I wonder if the 9 great sects would be able to take him seriously. Yunro was also shocked when she saw an expert dying within the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. She didn't expect that even obtaining the qualifications to join the 9 great sects would be so dangerous. Yin Ting had already stepped into the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. His entire body was bathed in lightning, and a vast amount of earth energy could be sensed from him. Every step he took was as heavy as a mountain, but as he ascended, the violet lightning within the formation howled in rage, sword chi howled, and the drumming sounds could sever the meridians of others. Yin Ting's steps were extremely slow, and when he reached the middle of the formation, he coughed out a mouthful of blood. However, Yin Ting's countenance flickered with the light of lightning. Violet lightning bolts protected his body, intertwining with the lightning in the formation. He continued advancing steadily, causing the tempest to intensify. On the way, he coughed out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Finally, he stepped out of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation as his aura fluctuated slightly. However, he was still extremely dazzling, attracting the gazes of the crowd. However, the people from the 9 great sects and the various empires didn't say a word, as though they didn't see anything. Geniuses from the major powers in Xianqing City could only be considered geniuses when compared to the entire Granshang Empire. Given how vast Granshang was, there were still many geniuses like him. The 9 great sects naturally wouldn't choose him so easily. They would still have to wait and see his future performance. Although Yin Ting managed to pass through the formation, he coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood and suffered heavy injuries. Staring at Yin Ting, the crowd mused in their hearts, trying to gauge if they would be able to pass through the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Yunro furrowed her brows and shook her head. She then sighed. It seems like there's no hope for me. I can't get past this array. The 2 people beside Yunro were also at the side. When they heard this, they also revealed looks of disappointment. They were considered extraordinary people, but in the face of this formation, they felt powerless. After Yin Ting, more and more people entered the Purple Thunder Sword Drum array. Some failed, some died, and some succeeded. Qin Wentian didn't move from the start to the end. He was silently observing. In the blink of an eye, half a day passed and there were already many people who passed the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Among them, there were many geniuses who didn't originate from the Xianqing city. They came from the royal capital of Granshang, the other 6 out of the 7 king cities, or other regions. And now, all of them had gathered here. Yin Ting, Jin Yan, Jian Jingtian, Feng Yunhe, as well as Xieyu, had already stepped onto the stage. Out of the 6 heavens chosen, only Shang-Chi remained. The major powers they were from all had smiles on their faces, their hearts filled with anticipation. If they were chosen by the 9 great sects, they would have a chance to soar through the ranks and use it as a springboard to join the royal sacred sect in the future. Although there were already many experts on the stage, they weren't competing against each other. They were all waiting. As for their cultivation bases, the majority of them were at the 5th or 6th level of Heavenly Dipper. There were also those at the 4th level and below, but the number of them was extremely few. They knew that even if they managed to step onto the stage, their ending wouldn't be too good. This time around, the person in the lead of the Battle Sword sect was none other than Lin Shuai. Their ancestor had sent a message saying that they wanted to use this opportunity to find the white-robed young man in the projection. Given how vast Xian King City was, it was unknown if the white-robed young man had already left the heavenly mountain range. How could it be so easy to find someone? They could only hope that they could use this opportunity to lure him out. The gathering of the 9 great sects should be enough to cause a commotion, right? If the white-robed young man was truly the person their ancestor was looking for, he would definitely be extraordinary. How could they miss out on this opportunity? Although Lin Shuai had yet to see the white-robed young man, he wasn't in a hurry. He had plenty of time. He could slowly wait. If the white-robed young man didn't appear, he would wait here for 3 months. Most probably, if his battle sword sect didn't leave, the other 9 great sects wouldn't leave as well. At this moment, Lin Shuai was extremely curious about the white-robed young man. His ancestor's personality was extremely eccentric. He was an extremely stubborn old man who did things as he pleased. Now that he heard that the white-robed young man was roaming the world, he naturally wanted to see what sort of character the white-robed young man was. If the white-robed young man knew that this was merely a prank played by his ancestor, who knew what he would think? Back then when the old man met Qin Wentian, it was indeed a coincidence. Qin Wentian and Qing both had their own personalities, which was why the old man paid attention to them for a period of time. Hence, this huge farce was born. On the training grounds, the silhouettes of Su Feng and Ji Shui appeared. They were both external disciples of the Qinghua Mountain. And naturally, they came here for the sake of the Qinghua Mountain. Su Feng walked to the front of the experts of the Qinghua Mountain as he stated, "Junior Su Feng is an external disciple of the Qinghua Mountain. I wish to join the Qinghua Mountain, and would like to request for seniors to grant me a chance to take the test. Since you wish to take the test directly, I shall grant you your wish." One of the experts from the Qinghua Mountain nodded his head at Su Feng. This young man was also an extraordinary character. With a wave of his hand, a green mountain floated in front of the spectator stands of the Qinghua Mountain. With a thunderous boom, the mountain directly landed on the training grounds. This mountain is named Green Mountain. If you can lift the mountain by 3 feet, I will directly acknowledge you and accept you into the Qinghua Mountain. An expert from the Qinghua Mountain spoke. Su Feng's countenance was solemn as he walked up to the front of the mountain. How could he possibly lift the entire mountain? He could only grab the mountain rampart and use his strength to lift it up. However, the mountain didn't budge at all. If I can lift the mountain, would I have a chance to join the Qinghua Mountain? Another expert asked. As long as we acknowledge you, it's fine. The expert from the Qinghua Mountain laughed. A moment later, Xieyu's silhouette flickered as 9 arms appeared at the same time, extending outwards and wrapping around the mountain. Rumbling sounds rang out as the mountain trembled, and actually left the ground. However, in an instant, a thunderous boom rang out as Xieyu was powerless as the mountain slammed into the ground. This mountain is too heavy. Xieyu shook his head and sighed. There seemed to be a mysterious energy within the mountain. The stronger he was, the heavier the mountain would be. It's not the mountain that's heavy, it's a person. A voice drifted over, causing Xieyu to frown. Turning his gaze over, he only saw a figure walking over, placing his palms on the mountain. He closed his eyes and quietly sensed it. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, only then did his palms move. In that instant, the mountain was lifted 3 feet off the ground. Upon seeing this scene, the gazes of countless people turned to this person. This would be the first person to enter the Qinghua Mountain. Not bad. Are you interested in joining the Qinghua Mountain? Junior is more than willing. That person bowed, his words causing smiles to appear on the faces of those from the Qinghua Mountain. Since they came to the Xian King City, they naturally had to obtain some harvest from this trip. At this moment, Yin Ting walked towards the direction of the Violet Thunder Sect. On the viewing platform of the Violet Thunder Sect, there was an expert who bore a striking resemblance to Yin Ting. Junior's name is Yin Ting. I hope to take this opportunity to join the Violet Thunder Sect. Yin Ting bowed as he spoke. An expert from the Violet Thunder Sect glanced at the person who bore a striking resemblance to Yin Ting and asked, "This person is your nephew?" "Yes." That middle-aged man smiled and nodded. He then turned to Yin Ting. "Do your best to fight for this opportunity." "Yes, uncle." Yin Ting nodded. Momentarily, the expert from the Violet Thunder sect pressed his palm downwards, and an instant later, a space of lightning appeared in front of him. Within this space, an illusory figure could be seen standing there, his entire body bathed in violet lightning. After you enter the puppet formation, you have a total of 7 steps. For every step you take, the puppet will send out a palm strike. If you can complete all 7 steps, you are considered to have passed. You are not allowed to resist. Yinting seriously nodded his head as he stepped into the space of lightning. And indeed, on the first step, the puppet blasted out a palm imprint of lightning, which Yinting withstood with his body. On the second step, the might of lightning ravaged the area, becoming even more tyrannical. On the third step, the thunder roared. On the fourth step, the lightning was like the waves of a tsunami. On the fifth step, the lightning was like a ferocious beast. Yinting's body was directly flung through the air, unable to complete the fifth step. Not bad, perform well. The expert from the Violet Thunder sect spoke. Even if Yinting's uncle was in the Violet Thunder sect, he wouldn't be so lenient. Junior Shuefei wishes to join the Heaven-Cleaving Manor. Junior Feng Yunhe wishes to join the Divine Dragon Castle. Junior. In the training grounds, the experts from the various powers all took the initiative to join their respective sections. For a period of time, all 9 sects took out their assessment methods, but the probability of passing was exceedingly low. Shang-Chi, go and give it a try. In the spectator stands of Grand Shang, an expert from the King's Manor spoke to Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi nodded his head and stepped past the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation, after which he walked towards the entrance of the Battle Sword sect as he stated. Junior Shang-Chi wishes to take a look at the assessment method of the Battle Sword sect. Lin Shuai glanced at Shang-Chi. This person didn't say that he wanted to join the Battle Sword sect, but rather, he wanted to take a look at the assessment method. With a wave of Lin Shuai's palms, numerous beams of sword light floated in the air, transforming into 9 rows that spanned across the entire space. This sword can kill the body and the heart. If you don't have a resolute heart, you will die for sure. Lin Shuai faintly spoke. Shang-Chi inclined his head and stared at the 9 rows of sword light. It was as though each row of sword light was condensed into an extremely sharp sword. He took a step forward and actually had the intention to retreat in his heart. If one didn't have a resolute heart, they would die for sure. When Shang-Chi stepped onto the training grounds, the 6 chosen from the 9 great sects also appeared. Qin Wentian stepped out, moving towards the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Yunro, upon seeing Qin Wentian walking over, called out, "The Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation is extremely dangerous. Only Heaven's Chosen can enter. Why take the risk?" "Many thanks for the reminder," Qin Wentian calmly replied. He was clad in black and exuded a grave and stern aura. Behind him, there were 2 mortal weapons strapped to his back. One was an axe, and the other was a long spear. The other 2 divine weapons were kept in his interspatial ring. He came here not for the sake of the 9 great sects, but to kill. Chapter 505. The number of people on the training grounds grew more and more. Many experts started to challenge others, hoping to display their combat prowess and gain the recognition of the 9 great sections. After all, the difficulty of the test was simply too high. The number of people who passed was extremely low. From this, one could very well imagine how strict the 9 great sects were in their recruitment process. Shang-Chi, after he took a step forward, he could feel the pressure from the 9 rows of sword light and ultimately chose to give up. Shang-Chi, a heaven chosen from the Xian King Manor, actually feared the Battle Sword sect's test. Before this, he wanted to test the Battle Sword sect, but was frightened away by a single sentence from the experts of the Battle Sword sect. This sword not only slashed the body, it slashed the heart as well. If one didn't have a resolute heart, they would die for sure. Shang-Chi didn't dare to attempt the path of certain death. Many geniuses were gathered in the training grounds. Over at the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation, there were people who passed while others failed. Qin Wentian, who was clad in black, walked to the front of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation and directly stepped into it. At the instant his foot landed, Thunderous rumbling sounds could be heard as bolts of violet lightning blasted towards him. Qin Wentian allowed the bolts of lightning to land on him as he continued walking forward. His steps were light, and there seemed to be a formless fluctuation emanating from him. Sensing everything within the formation. Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation, so it's like this. Qin Wentian's state of heart and perception was exceedingly powerful. Right now, he was able to sense every single pulse of the formation like the back of his hand. Very swiftly, he was able to see through the profoundness of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation. When an attack landed on you, the stronger your resistance was, the stronger the resistance would be, causing the thunder drum to unleash sound waves of attack. At the same time, the thunderous rumbles would cause the lightning sword chi within the formation to wreak havoc. This formation was truly ingenious. Qin Wentian walked step by step up the slope as though he was walking on flat ground. No matter what attacks landed on him, they would circulate around him. He only used his Mandate of Force and Mandate of Demons to form a double layer of armor, and in just an instant, he had already walked out of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation. This scene caused the eyes of the people around the matrix to flash. They saw many people step into the matrix, and there were many who succeeded. Many of those who succeeded stepped into the matrix in an extremely domineering manner, using force to break force. They were domineering and powerful, and their prestige was vast and mighty. They revealed an insufferably arrogant spirit. However, they had never seen anyone like Qin Wentian who passed through the matrix so easily. The black-robed young man had a cold temperament, yet he gave off an unfathomable feeling, as if he couldn't be seen through. He walked up to the martial arts field and stood at the edge of the field, scanning his surroundings. He was not in a rush to pass the trial of the 9 great sects. At this time, Xiaoyu stood in the crowd and looked around at the assessment of the 9 sects, secretly estimating the difficulty. Regardless of which sect it was, the difficulty of the assessment was exceedingly high. After Shang-Chi gave up on the battle sword sect's assessment, there was one person who went up to attempt it. However, that person fell within the 9 rows of sword might. He only managed to pass the 3rd row before he was annihilated, leaving not even his bones behind. Since that person was able to pass the Violet Thunder Sword Drum Formation, it was evident that his strength wasn't weak. However, he only managed to pass the 3rd row before he was annihilated. This made the battle sword sect's assessment even more terrifying. Xiaoyu naturally wouldn't choose the battle sword sect's assessment. As for the Qinghua Mountain, he had already failed it earlier. Xiaoyu, why don't you try the Great Earth sect? You are proficient in the Mandate of Great Earth. Wouldn't that be perfect? At this moment, a voice rang out in Xiaoyu's ears. It was an elder of the Ecliptic sect who transmitted his voice to him. Although Xiaoyu was a member of the Ecliptic sect, it was clear that the Ecliptic sect wished for him to have a better future. For true geniuses, the sect wouldn't restrict their development. Once they reached a certain cultivation realm, they would have to step out sooner or later. It was enough for them to remember the sect. Xiaoyu glanced in the direction of the Ecliptic sect before nodding his head to a middle-aged man. After which, he slowly walked towards the direction of the Great Earth sect. At this moment, Jin Yan also walked in the direction of the Great Earth sect. Although he was proficient in fire, he had also comprehended the Mandate of Great Earth. Back then when he fought against Yin Ting and Xiaoyu for the constellation fruits that contain the Mandate of Great Earth, Qin Wentian beat them to it. In the end, they didn't even manage to obtain a single constellation fruit. Yin Ting's ambitions weren't with the Great Earth sect, but with the Violet Thunder sect. After all, he had an elder cultivating in the Violet Thunder sect. If he could enter the Violet Thunder sect, they would surely take good care of him. Hence, he didn't choose the direction of the Great Earth sect. The test for the Great Earth sect was a 3-meter-tall earth puppet. Its entire body was an earthen yellow color, resembling a great earth giant. The experts of the Great Earth sect said that those who could destroy the earth puppet with a single strike would pass regardless of their cultivation base. It was rumored that this earth puppet was the guardian of the Great Earth sect. It would grow stronger the stronger the opponent it faced. It was a puppet used by the Great Earth sect to temper the combat prowess of their disciples, as well as to protect the sect. If one wanted to destroy it, They couldn't simply use brute force. Jin Yan and Xiaoyu walked up as they exchanged glances. Brother Xiaoyu first. Jin Yan politely replied. Sure. Xiaoyu nodded. 9 arms appeared as a pulsating sensation gushed forth. He stepped out, and with every step he took, the ground would tremble. Break. Xiaoyu howled in rage as his 9 arms blasted out towards the same location. His fist might towered up into the skies as a thunderous boom echoed out. Layers of shockwaves gushed into the earth puppet, causing it to tremble unceasingly. Parts of its body actually crumbled apart, transforming into yellow soil that fell to the ground. But an instant later, the eyes of the puppet flickered as the yellow soil on the ground returned to its body. This fist strike of mine contained 81 streams of fist might, yet it didn't shatter into pieces. Xiaoyu's countenance sank as he stepped aside to give way to Jin Yan. Jin Yan's countenance turned heavy as his golden flames bloodline erupted forth. His entire body was bathed in flames as a golden flame lotus appeared in his hands. His silhouette flickered as the golden lotus imprinted itself onto the body of the earth puppet, penetrating through it. After which, a towering flame might erupted forth from the body of the earth puppet. The 3-meter-tall earth puppet was bathed in flames, but under the flames it stood there unmoving. This caused Jin Yan's expression to change continuously. Brother Jin Yan, the test of the Great Earth sect should have something to do with the will of the mandate of Great Earth. It's only natural that you wouldn't be able to succeed with just the power of fire. Xiaoyu's voice was filled with satisfaction. After all, his performance was much more outstanding than Jin Yan's. Seems like you are prepared to continue. Jin Yan turned his head and stared at Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared at the earth puppet. Naturally. Scram. A voice drifted over from behind. Xiaoyu and Jin Yan abruptly turned, only to see a black-robed young man standing there, staring at them with eyes as sharp as swords. Many in the crowd turned their gazes over. Earlier, Xiaoyu's performance was already not bad, yet this black-robed young man suddenly appeared and told Xiaoyu and Jin Yan to scram. Xiaoyu could sense the aura exuding from Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was at the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper. His lips curled into a smile as he coldly stated, "Take back your words earlier. If not, although you managed to step onto the stage, you will regret coming here." Scram. Jin Yan stared at Qin Wentian as he coldly spoke. The confrontation here attracted the attention of many in the crowd. Yin Ro, who was below the stage, was completely dumbfounded. This fellow, after passing the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation, he actually dared to antagonize Xiaoyu and Jin Yan from the Xianqing city? Was he seeking death? Qin Wentian took off the bag on his back and opened it, revealing a long spear in his hands. His eyes swept over to the experts from the 9 great sects as he asked in a clear voice, "I only have one question. Are we allowed to kill on the stage?" An expert from the Grand Shang Empire laughed. "Since you stepped onto the stage, your life and death are up to fate. Others are not to interfere." The experts from the Ecliptic sect and Golden Fire Aristocrat clan all had cold expressions on their faces as they stared in the direction of Qin Wentian. Could it be that he wanted to kill Xiaoyu and Jin Yan? Even if his combat prowess was high and his talent was outstanding, how could he kill the heaven chosen from their sects who were a level higher than the black-robed young man? Courting death. An expert from the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan coldly laughed. Xiaoyu and Jin Yan both had expressions of interest on their faces as they stared at Qin Wentian from afar. Naturally, we are allowed to kill. Killing intent flashed in Xiaoyu's eyes. Qin Wentian tossed the black cloth that covered his long spear onto the stage as he stepped out. His footsteps were light, and there was no sound at all. His gaze was fixed on Xiaoyu, so calm that it felt a little abnormal. His aura was extremely calm. Xiaoyu's 9 arms glowed with an earthen yellow light as a heavy aura gushed forth, staring at Qin Wentian. This fellow. Yin Ro's eyes flickered with a strange light. Although she wasn't acquainted with Qin Wentian, she actually felt a little nervous at this moment. The spectators below the stage watched as Qin Wentian walked towards Xiaoyu, step by step. Their gazes were involuntarily drawn over as they followed Qin Wentian's footsteps. Finally, the distance between Qin Wentian and Xiaoyu grew nearer and nearer. He lifted his foot, and as his foot stomped down, a thunderous boom echoed out. In that instant, Xiaoyu felt his heart pounding violently as a formless pressure enveloped him. Qin Wentian continued to raise his foot and stomp down. Although he seemed calm, Xiaoyu felt his breathing becoming ragged. His heart was pounding violently as he felt a strong sense of danger. Attack! Xiaoyu's body whistled as his 9 arms struck out in anger. Violent air currents instantly swept out. In that instant, Qin Wentian struck out with his spear. This spear strike was soundless, there was no whistling of the wind, no turbulent air currents, only speed. It instantly penetrated through the fist light, piercing towards Xiaoyu's throat. Bang! In that instant, Xiaoyu only felt his head spinning as the sky darkened. He felt as though he was in hell as a million spear beams shot towards him, causing his countenance to turn pale white. This was the dreamscape, directly causing him to fall into a trance. His astral nova erupted forth as the air currents around him frenziedly protected his body. Puchi! A light sound rang out, interrupting everything. Xiaoyu's mind regained clarity as he stared at the black-robed young man in front of him. His lips trembled as though he wanted to ask something. "Who are you?" "You are the first of the 6 chosen." A voice rang out in Xiaoyu's ears. Xiaoyu's eyes widened as he stared fixedly at the black-robed young man in front of him. This voice should belong to the other young man, the white-robed young man who had fought against the 6 chosen earlier. As the long spear was pulled out, blood splattered everywhere. The entire stage abruptly turned silent as the gazes of the spectators all focused on this place. The heaven chosen of the Xian King city's ecliptic sect, Xiaoyu, had his throat pierced by a single spear strike. Chapter 506. The atmosphere in the training grounds abruptly turned silent. This time around, when the 9 great sects were about to arrive, the experts present were all present. On the training grounds, although Xiaoyu was a heavens chosen from the Xian King city, he wasn't the most dazzling one. However, his death still attracted the attention of everyone. Because that spear strike was too dazzling. They didn't know what Xiaoyu had experienced, how his throat was slit by a single spear strike. They couldn't understand how a 5th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign from the Xian King city died, before he could even unleash his full strength. Precisely because they couldn't understand, it was terrifying. The long spear in the hands of the black-robed young man was only an ordinary weapon. And right now, this ordinary weapon was dripping with blood. That blood belonged to a heavens chosen from the Xian King city. Yinro, who was among the crowd, felt her heart pounding. At the instant when Qin Wentian stabbed out, her nervousness rose to the peak. When the spear pierced through Xiaoyu's throat, she even felt a sense of suffocation. Even now, she still hadn't calmed down. Her heart was still thumping wildly. This caused her to be extremely curious about this black-robed young man. How powerful! The 2 people beside her were also dumbfounded. They had thought that Qin Wentian would bring along a top-grade, 4th-ranked divine weapon to participate in the examination of the 9 great sections. Yet, Qin Wentian had only used an ordinary weapon. In the spectator stands, several figures abruptly stood up. Their countenances were ice-cold, and a terrifying baleful aura could be seen flickering in their eyes. They were experts from the ecliptic sect. Xiaoyu was a heavens chosen of their sect, yet his throat was slit by the black-robed young man. Only now did they understand the meaning behind Qin Wentian's earlier words. He only wanted to ask a single question. Was it permissible to kill on the training grounds? The gazes of those from the 9 great sects as well as the Royal Shang Empire all turned to Qin Wentian. The black-robed young man gripped his long spear tightly. The ordinary spear didn't even tremble in the slightest. His hands were too steady, not moving an inch. His gaze was on Jin Yan. His gaze was like a sharp blade, directly piercing into Jin Yan's eyes, causing him to awaken from his stupor. Xiaoyu wasn't the only one blocking Qin Wentian's path. Wasn't Jin Yan the same as well? Thinking up to this point, Jin Yan's aura erupted out crazily. Raging flames rose to the skies, his blood boiled, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. Buzz! The long spear in Qin Wentian's hand stabbed straight out. It was still silent, but it was fast enough that the sound could not reach the ears of the crowd. This time, Those experts were all staring at Qin Wentian's spear. His spear didn't seem to have much abnormality, or it could be said that they didn't know how to describe this amazing spear. It was so amazing that it couldn't be judged. They didn't know what Jin Yan was experiencing at this moment. In the instant that seemingly ordinary spear thrust out, he had already felt the call of the Grim Reaper. His mind was in a state of chaos, as if he had fallen into a demonic barrier. In a world of darkness that was as dark as blood, there was only a single spear coming at him from all directions. He had even lost his sense of direction, as if he would die no matter where he went. Pooh! A light sound rang out. Jin Yan finally felt the despair in Xieyu's heart. He finally understood why Xieyou would wait for his death under this spear, with no strength to resist at all. Only when he himself faced this spear did he know how terrifying this devil's spear was. Who did he offend? Why did they want to kill him? Jin Yan, the second one. A familiar voice drifted into Jin Yan's ears, after which a silhouette suddenly appeared in his mind. It was that white-robed figure who dared to snatch half of the constellation fruits when the experts were as numerous as the clouds. The 6 chosen ganged up on him, yet he managed to escape. After that, the experts from the 6 transcendent powers chased after him, yet they were all chased away by his purgatory vermilion bird. It's him. A thought flashed through Jin Yan's mind, after which, his body turned cold as his consciousness gradually dissipated. Jin Yan. In the spectator stands on the arena, a hoarse voice rang out. In the direction of the royal clan, an expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan stood up, his countenance pale as he stared at the corpse of Jin Yan. Jin Yan was the same as Xieyou. His throat was pierced by a single spear strike. 2 heavens chosen died in the hands of the same person. Under the same spear strike, they had no way to resist at all. Right now, Qin Wentian's 4 mandates had all reached the transformation boundary. He had trained in the halberd for tens of days, and every single strike he executed contained the mandate of dreams. Now that he had switched to the transformation boundary of the 2nd level of the mandate of dreams, his opponents clearly knew that it was fake. However, the mandate of dreams was too strong. It corroded their will, causing their mandates to enter a dreamscape. In addition to his spear arts, although Xieyou and Jin Yan were a level higher than Qin Wentian, how could they not die? In the past, Qin Wentian had to use the power of his bloodline to fight against the 6 chosen. But now that he had broken through to the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper, killing the 6 chosen was as easy as flipping his palms. This was the suppression of the will of mandates. The crowd in the surroundings was in an uproar. 2 heavens chosen from the major powers of the Xian King City were killed with a single spear strike. Staring at the corpses on the arena, the hearts of the spectators couldn't calm down. What a ruthless method. Not only that, he was so strong, so arrogant. Are they even qualified to participate in the examination of the 9 great sects? Qin Wentian was still wielding the long spear in his hands. He slowly turned and stared at the experts on the arena as he spoke. This Xieyou and Jin Yan, they seem to have the reputation of being heavens chosen in the Xian King City, yet they are actually trash. In that case, the other heavens chosen from the Yin clan, Windrock aristocrat clan, Heaven Shocking Sword sect, and the other major powers should be the same, right? Why don't you all scram down from the arena, lest you embarrass yourselves here? A single sentence from Qin Wentian had offended all the heavens chosen from the major powers of the Xian King City. The heavens chosen from the Windrock aristocrat clan, Feng Yunhe. The heavens chosen from the Yin clan, Yin Ting. The heavens chosen from the Heaven Shocking Sword sect, Jian Jingtian. Right now, all of them were still on the arena. The black-robed young man was simply too lawless. Sir, aren't your words a little too arrogant? Yin Ting took a few steps forward, the might of lightning radiating from him. He didn't know about the spear strike Xieyou and Jin Yan experienced. If not, he wouldn't even stand out to speak. But now he wanted to join the Violet Thunder sect. How could he lose face in front of the Violet Thunder sect? Do you really think that you are invincible just based on your spear arts? Feng Yunhe coldly snorted. His speed was unparalleled. He was the strongest among the heavens chosen. Xieyou and Jin Yan might not be able to evade that spear strike, but he didn't think that he wouldn't be able to do so as well. Jian Jingtian didn't reply. A powerful sword intent gushed forth from him. Jian Jingtian from the heaven-shocking sword sect. His swordsmanship could shake the heavens, and was as fast as lightning. He knew that he wouldn't lose out to Qin Wentian in terms of spear arts. Qin Wentian coldly laughed. Wielding the long spear in his hands, he slowly walked towards the center of the training grounds. After which, he halted and spoke in a carefree manner. "The three of you can come at me together." As the sound of his voice faded, a light breeze gusted by, fluttering his black robes. There were many geniuses on the gigantic arena. Many of them were even more outstanding compared to the heavens chosen from the Xian King city. There were even some among them who had already passed the test of the 9 great sections. But at this moment, the young man in black with the long spear in his hands became the center of attention, attracting the attention of everyone. Feng Yunhe, Jian Jingtian, Yin Ting, these 3 fifth-level heavenly dipper sovereigns were humiliated in such a manner. They couldn't find any reason to cower. The cultivation base of the young man in black was only at the 4th level of heavenly dipper. If they didn't accept the challenge, how would they have the face to remain on the arena? How would they have the qualifications to become disciples of the 9 great sects? Even if their talent was outstanding and they passed the test of the 9 great sects, the 9 great sects wouldn't accept them. Don't hesitate any longer. If not, you won't even have a chance to act. Qin Wentian's voice rang out once more. Yin Ting, Feng Yunhe and Jian Jingtian all made their moves. Although 3 against 1 wasn't something glorious, Qin Wentian's domineering manner of killing Xie Yu and Jin Yan was simply too domineering. If they were to fight against Qin Wentian alone, they wouldn't dare to do so. His astral nova erupted forth as Jian Jingtian slashed out with his sword. The violent sword qi transformed into a terrifying tidal wave, gushing towards Qin Wentian. Yin Ting also acted. His silhouette soared up into the air, staring down at Qin Wentian. With an explosive roar, a gigantic lightning palm imprint appeared in the air, pressing down from the heavens, aiming straight for Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's silhouette soared up into the air as he stabbed out with his spear. In that instant he was no longer as silent as before. His entire person was akin to a hegemon of an era, imbued with a towering aura. As the spear stabbed out, the space around it shattered. The gigantic palm imprint exploded as Qin Wentian's silhouette shot upwards, aiming for Yin Ting. Fast, his speed was too fast. Qin Wentian's spear struck out, shattering the gigantic palm imprint as he evaded the terrifying sword might. Feng Yunhe also arrived. The instant Jian Jingtian and Yin Ting made their moves, he was akin to a great rock, pressing down on Qin Wentian. His golden palms were indestructible as they directly smashed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian blasted out with his left palm, yet his body didn't slow down at all. Instead, he continued soaring up into the air, emitting a tyrannical aura. Yin Ting's will of the mandate of Great Earth pressed downwards. Qin Wentian's body was extremely heavy, yet it didn't obstruct his determination to kill Yin Ting. Block him. Jian Jingtian's silhouette flickered as he sped over. Yin Ting's eyes flashed with lightning as a towering amount of lightning energy gushed forth from his body, condensing into a gigantic lightning sword that was infused with the will of multiple mandates. The blood in Qin Wentian's body surged as the mandate of force and mandate of demons erupted from his right arm. His long spear was like a hot knife cutting through butter, piercing out with unstoppable force. Qin Wentian soared up into the skies, his long spear pointed straight at the dome of the heavens. This spear strike of his was like a peerless overlord. Bang! The gigantic lightning sword shattered. No amount of energy could block the sure kill intent contained within this spear strike. Abruptly, a bloody light flashed in Yin Ting's mind as the entire world seemed to have vanished. Third. Qin Wentian's voice rang out in his mind, after which, the tyrannical spear pierced into his body, causing the spectators to tremble violently. Yin Ting had fallen. This was the 3rd heaven chosen to die. Jian Jingtian felt a sense of sorrow in his heart when he saw Yin Ting's death. It was as though Yin Ting's death was his ending as well. A single sword strike shook the heavens. The entire space was destroyed by the sword intent. At the instant Qin Wentian killed Yin Ting, His long spear swept out horizontally like a wooden rod, smashing into the incoming golden palm imprint of Feng Yunhe. Qin Wentian's body was like a gust of wind as he soared up into the skies, directly escaping from the attack of the sword qi. How fast? Qin Wentian had cultivated the rock flash innate technique before. He was akin to a great rock, and in addition to the demonic blood in his veins, his speed was naturally fast. He stood in the air, staring down at the two of them as he kept his long spear, after which he retrieved the great axe strapped to his back, and with a flicker of his silhouette, he dashed towards Jian Jingtian. I don't believe it. Jian Jingtian coldly spoke. His astral nova directly tore through the skies, exploding outwards. Qin Wentian didn't evade, he directly cleaved downwards with his great axe. A single axe split the heavens. As the great axe descended, even the heavens and earth trembled. When it slammed into Jian Jingtian's astral nova, Jian Jingtian groaned in agony. His astral nova felt as though it was on the verge of shattering. He only saw a beam of axe light slashing downwards, causing his body to involuntarily tremble as he hurriedly retreated. The might contained within that axe strike caused him to feel terror in his heart. Slash! Qin Wentian roared. The axe in his hand cleaved downwards through the air. Puchi! The center of Jian Jingtian's brows was split open, and a long line of blood flowed out from the wound. This is sword art. Jian Jingtian spat out as his body fell from the skies. Chapter 507. In the direction where the royal clan of Granshang was located, the experts stood up one after another, howling with rage, wanting to press down on the training grounds. The 9 great sects had arrived, the royal clan of Granshang followed, accompanied by the King Manor. The representatives of the major powers of Xian King City were all here, including the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan, Windrock Aristocrat clan, and the Yin clan. But at this moment, they personally witnessed the geniuses of their respective powers dying in the hands of Qin Wentian. Xiaoyu died, Jinyan died. Earlier, Yin Ting was killed and Jian Jingtian was slain. These 4 were all geniuses of Xian King City, yet they all died in the hands of the same person. This caused the people of Xian King City to feel stifled. This time around, the demon-level geniuses from the 9 great sects all came here with high hopes, wanting to become disciples of the 9 great sections. Yet because of the appearance of the black-robed young man, all of them died one after another. Jian Jingtian's body fell from the air, but before he died, a voice rang out in his ears. The 4th one. The axe strike that killed him was indeed a sword art. The will of the mandate of the sword note mandate slashed out with the tip of the axe, destroying Jian Jingtian. Feng Yunhe wanted to continue rushing forward, but upon seeing Jian Jingtian's death, he instantly halted. After which, with a howl of madness, he grabbed out with his palms, causing a gigantic rock to fly towards Qin Wentian, blotting out the skies. However, he abruptly turned and fled, wanting to leave the training grounds. Feng Yunhe of the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan didn't dare to continue fighting. He wanted to leave the training grounds. Even if he lost face, even if he couldn't enter the 9 great sects, he still had to leave. Qin Wentian spun in the air, slashing out with his axe in rage. A beam of resplendent light tore through the air, directly tearing apart the shadow of the great rock. Staring at Feng Yunhe fleeing, Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light, as an intense killing intent gushed forth from him. A gust of wind swept past. Qin Wentian's speed was as fast as lightning. He threw the axe forward, and then slapped forward with his palm. This palm strike caused the heavens and earth to tremble. The pulse of the entire space was enveloped by this palm strike. The palm energy transformed into raging waves that actually emitted rumbling sounds. The power of the palm caused the space around it to tremble, growing stronger and stronger as it transformed into a monstrous shockwave that blasted towards Feng Yunhe. Feng Yunhe howled in rage. With a wave of his palms, a layer of resplendent armor appeared on his body. Terrifying shockwaves blasted into his body, causing him to cough out a mouthful of blood. That energy directly penetrated into his body, severing his meridians and ending his life, wanting to destroy his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. This was an illusory shockwave. Buzz! Feng Yunhe didn't dare to slow down. He continued sprinting forwards, and just when he was about to reach the bottom of the training grounds, Qin Wentian once again grabbed hold of the great axe he had tossed out. With lightning speed, he appeared behind Feng Yunhe and cleaved downwards. Careful! The experts from the Windrock aristocrat clan roared. They only saw the black-robed Qin Wentian brandishing the axe, intending to split the heavens apart. Just that might alone caused their hearts to palpitate wildly. Feng Yunhe naturally sensed the might behind him. With a howl of madness, the astral energy in his body erupted forth, protecting him. His wings abruptly unfurled, wrapping around his entire body. The black-robed man was like a heavenly deity as he chopped down with his axe, slamming into Feng Yunhe's body. With a thunderous boom, Feng Yunhe's body was directly smashed out of the martial arts practice field, causing the earth to shatter. The spectators in the surroundings hurriedly retreated. The terrifying shockwave actually caused them to lose their balance. Yunhe. Numerous silhouettes dashed towards Feng Yunhe, only to see that Feng Yunhe, who was protected by Feng Yunhe's wings and divine weapon, wasn't moving at all. When the experts tried to remove Feng Yunhe's wings, they discovered that Feng Yunhe's body had already been split apart. Blood flowed from his 7 apertures, and his internal organs had all been ruptured. He had long since stopped breathing and couldn't be more dead. Qin Wentian had comprehended the second level of the mandate of force, the void shockwave. In addition to his powerful perception, the instant he struck out, the power of the shockwave directly permeated into his body, transforming into a pulsating energy that could destroy everything. Although Feng Yunhe was protected by a divine weapon, there was no doubt that he would die. The spectators inclined their heads and stared at the black-robed young man standing in the air. Although he was only wielding an ordinary axe, he was like a god of war, exuding an unparalleled might. The experts from the Windrock aristocrat clan glanced at Qin Wentian, only to see a terrifying killing intent flickering in the eyes of one of them as he icily stated, "You are courting death." As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying wave of demonic qi gushed forth. Qin Wentian stared at the black-robed young man as he roared. "Do you treat the promise made by the 9 great sects as farts?" As the sound of his voice faded, the tyrannical aura radiating from the black-robed young man abruptly froze as he stared fixedly at the black-robed young man in the air. "Can't even withstand a single strike, yet you still claim to be a heaven's chosen. What's there to regret about your death?" "I shall help the Xian King city to wipe out these people with undeserved reputations," Qin Wentian coldly spoke. His silhouette flickered as he returned to the training grounds. The gazes of the spectators were all fixed on him, their eyes filled with hatred, as though they wanted nothing more than to kill him and dig out his heart. Those who died were all geniuses from their respective clans and sects, geniuses who had the potential to join the 9 great sections. Yet all of them died just like that. Right now, the 9 great sects and the royal clan of Granshang were all present. The royal clan had already stated that no one was to interfere. What could they do? They could only wait for Qin Wentian to come down before they made him die a miserable death. However, this young man's strength was too tyrannical. If he joined the 9 great sects, wouldn't that mean that they wouldn't even have a chance to take revenge? As they thought of this, they grew even more nervous as they stared at Qin Wentian. This black-robed young man was so domineering, he would definitely join the 9 great sects in the selection test. Those from the 9 great sects also noticed Qin Wentian. An expert from the Qinghua Mountains turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian as he asked, "Are you interested in joining my Qinghua Mountains?" As the sound of his voice faded, the spectators all drew in a deep breath. The 9 great sects were here to recruit disciples, allowing them to display their prowess on the training grounds. The black-robed young man killed 5 heavens chosen, and he even jumped levels to kill them. He even fought against 3 of them at the same time. Such combat talent left many in the dust. His comprehension of mandates far surpassed the geniuses of the Xian King city. Most probably, there weren't many in the same generation as him in the Xian King city. And now, the Qinghua Mountains extended an invitation to him. This black-robed young man was the first person who didn't take the initiative to join the 9 great sections. This caused those experts from the major powers in the Xian King city to feel nervous. If this black-robed young man agreed to the invitation of the Qinghua Mountains, would they still be able to kill him? In the direction of the royal clan of Grandshang, the person in the lead was an old man clad in luxurious robes. His countenance was incomparably imposing, causing others to feel immense pressure just by looking at him. At this moment, the old man leaned forward, leaning towards a young man sitting in front of him as he asked in a low voice, "What do you think of this young man?" This young man was clad in golden robes. His features weren't handsome, yet he exuded an aura of heroism. With a single glance, one could tell that this man was no ordinary character. Just by sitting there, he caused others to feel a sense of reverence towards him. His eyes were especially peculiar, glowing with a golden light. Within his pupils, there was a blazing scarlet flame that was incomparably sharp, capable of penetrating through everything. This man used a secret art to disguise his features. The eyes of the young man stared at Qin Wentian, as though he could see through all secrets. He intentionally provoked the heaven chosen of the Xian King city. I'm afraid he didn't come here because of the 9 great sections. His purpose is to kill. As the sound of his voice faded, the eyes of the old man gleamed with sharpness. He didn't doubt the words of the young man in luxurious robes at all. Given how sharp his eyes were, nothing could hide from him. Since he said that Qin Wentian used a secret art to disguise his features, it must be true. At this moment, on the training ground, Qin Wentian stared at the expert from the Qinghua Mountains as he spoke. I killed 5 geniuses of the Xian King city. The major powers will surely seek revenge. As the sound of his voice faded, the expert from the Qinghua Mountains smiled. Don't worry, if you join my Qinghua Mountains, you will be a disciple of the Qinghua Mountains. The Qinghua Mountains will naturally protect your safety. Many thanks, I will consider the Qinghua Mountains first. Qin Wentian glanced in that direction and nodded his head in agreement, his actions causing many in the crowd to feel shock in their hearts. This young man was truly arrogant. He only said that he would consider the Qinghua Mountains invitation instead of directly agreeing to it. Good. The expert from the Qinghua Mountains smiled. He naturally wouldn't force the issue. Qin Wentian naturally had the right to choose. As expected. In that case, who is the next person he wants to kill? That expert from the Grandshang Empire had an expression of interest on his face when he heard Qin Wentian's reply. He wanted to see who Qin Wentian was going to target. If he doesn't act now, there won't be many chances left. The major powers of the Xian King city have all gathered in front of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Evidently, they want to kill him. The eyes of the young man in luxurious robes shone with a brilliant light. Many in the crowd noticed that there were many experts gathered at the bottom of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Their strength was extremely terrifying, and the majority of them were at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, the highest cultivation level allowed to participate in the examination. Qin Wentian killed the chosen of the 5 major powers. Xiaoyu from the Luoho sect, Yin Ting from the Yin clan, Feng Yunhe from the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan, Jin Yan from the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan, and Jian Jingtian from the Heaven Shocking Sword sect. How could these 5 major powers spare Qin Wentian? They had to think of a way to send the most powerful experts from their clans and sects to the training grounds to kill Qin Wentian. The eyes of the young man in luxurious robes gleamed with a resplendent golden light as a golden halo appeared in the center of his brows. An expression of interest appeared on his face. He wanted to see if there was anyone else the young man in disguise wanted to kill. Qin Wentian kept his great axe and took out his long spear. His eyes were as sharp as his spear as he swept his gaze across the crowd. After which, his gaze landed on Shang-Chi. I've heard that Shang-Chi of the king's estate is the leader of the various heavens chosen. His bloodline is extremely powerful. I'm sure you won't disappoint us like the others. Qin Wentian slowly walked out. The faint smile on his face was as sharp as a blade. Shang-Chi furrowed his brows. The strength of this black-robed young man was too strong. He felt that he wouldn't be able to kill the chosen of the 5 major powers. Seeing the black-robed young man walking closer, Shang-Chi had the urge to retreat. And at this moment, the young man in luxurious robes had a strange expression on his face. So it turned out that the black-robed young man's target was Shang-Chi. No matter what, Shang-Chi was a member of the royal clan, a prince of the king's estate. Hence, Shang-Chi had great respect for the black-robed young man. Hence, he reminded Shang-Chi, this man has concealed his true appearance. He's here to kill all of you. As the sound of his voice faded, the experts from the 5 major powers all had a cold glint in their eyes. This black-robed young man had concealed his identity and came here to kill all of them. When Shang-Chi heard this, his mind spun madly as he suddenly recalled the connection between the 6 of them. They had once joined forces to kill a certain person. That person was clad in white. Bang! Stepping out, Shang-Chi turned and fled, madly sprinting in the direction of the royal clan. At the same time he roared, "This person is the one who seized the constellation fruits." Chapter 508. As the sound of Shang-Chi's voice faded, the experts from the major powers of the Xian King city were all taken aback. Their anger towered up into the skies as a terrifying glow radiated from them. It was as though they wanted nothing more than to rush to the training grounds and kill Qin Wentian on the spot. So it's him. At this moment, they understood that the reason Qin Wentian killed the 5 chosen of the Xian King city wasn't because he wanted to challenge them or test them. He was here for revenge. The experts from the Xian King's manor stood up, their countenances gleaming with sharpness. Staring at Qin Wentian chasing after Shang-Chi, they roared in rage, "Impudent! How could Qin Wentian care about them? He only came out to kill the 6 chosen one by one, all for the sake of killing all 6 of them, leaving none alive. Since his identity was exposed, he had to kill them all the more." Astral light flashed. It was none other than stellar transposition. His silhouette directly appeared behind the fleeing Shang-Chi as his long spear stabbed out with lightning speed. Everywhere the spear passed, the space was silent, yet a terrifying tremor could be felt, as though the space itself was about to shatter. Shang-Chi naturally sensed this pressure. With a thunderous boom, a dream demon illusion appeared in his mind. It was as though there were countless blood-colored demonic halberds smashing towards him. Each of the demonic halberds shone with a blood-red light that could reap away his life. They were extremely malevolent and terrifying. "Ah!" Shang-Chi roared, and the power of the regenerative bloodline in his body erupted. Like the roar of mountains and rivers, a terrifying rumbling sound came from his body. In his body, a terrifying golden and blood-red light burst out, like a huge cocoon, directly wrapping his body inside. Boom! An incomparably powerful shockwave blasted into the cocoon, shattering it into pieces. The long spear pierced through. Yet Qin Wentian could still feel a layer of blood-colored energy enveloping Shang-Chi's body. Shang-Chi coughed out fresh blood as his body was flung forwards from the impact. The experts from the Xian King's manor all stepped out to receive him. Although they hadn't stepped into the training grounds, they were already at the borders. "Quick!" they shouted. One of them directly stretched out his blood-colored palms, grabbing toward Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi bit down on his lips as a blood-colored light shot up to the skies. His speed increased explosively as he continued advancing forward. "Where are you going?" The center of Qin Wentian's brows glowed brightly as his body transformed into a mirage. Demonic qi towered up into the sky as his bloodline surged. On the tip of the spear, there was a terrifying blood-colored light that was about to break out of the spear. "Die!" Qin Wentian roared. The blood-colored palm imprint from the Xian King's manor slammed into Shang-Chi, but at the same time, Qin Wentian's spear also slammed into Shang-Chi. Bang! At this instant, Shang-Chi's entire body trembled violently. His body stopped in the air as the blood-colored palm imprint directly dragged him to the side of the experts from the Xian King's manor. They stared at Shang-Chi as blood flowed out from his 7 apertures. His meridians and bones were all ruptured and his heart was crushed. The terrifying pulsating shockwave of this strike completely destroyed Shang-Chi. The experts from the Xian King's manor inclined their heads, their eyes filled with blood-colored light that enveloped Qin Wentian, causing the blood in Qin Wentian's body to tremble violently. The spectators below all had looks of shock on their faces as they stared at Qin Wentian. Wasn't this person a little too violent? After his identity was exposed, he still killed Shang-Chi, as well as 6 other geniuses from the Xian King's manor. He was simply lawless, treating the major powers of the Xian King's manor as nothing. Su Feng and Ji Shui stood in the middle of the arena, their hearts pounding unceasingly. It was Qin Wentian. He had come for revenge. Not only that, he was already so powerful. Ji Shui finally understood why the black-robed young man referred to himself as Qin Wentian. So it turned out that this black-robed young man was none other than the white-robed young man, who snatched the constellation fruits from the Xian King's manor back then. Yunro and the others who came together with Qin Wentian were all shocked to the extreme. Qin Wentian was simply too powerful. In the direction of the royal clan, the golden-eyed young man's lips curled up in an arc as he stared at the arena. He didn't really care about Shang-Chi's death, but this young man truly caused him to be taken aback. As for Shang Yu from the Xian King's manor, she personally witnessed Qin Wentian killing 6 geniuses, and came here for revenge. An indescribable feeling filled her heart. He has an interspatial scroll on him. Don't let him escape. We must dismember his body into 1,000 pieces and bury his corpse in the wilderness. The experts from the 5 great sects as well as the Xian King's manor were completely enraged. They had already walked to the edge of the arena, as though they wanted nothing more than to rush in and personally kill Qin Wentian. Lung Tu from the Blood Cloud sect also felt fear in his heart when he saw this scene. Back then, he and Qin Wentian had entered the location of the crimson-eyed demonic beast. Luckily, he didn't bite the hand that fed him like Xiaoyu did. If not, he would also be dead by now. The 9 great sects are recruiting disciples, and the experts from the various powers are all gathered on the arena. Life and death are determined by fate, and the 9 great sects will bear witness to it. The royal clan of Granshang has already made a promise in advance, and if they died in my hands, it means that their strength is insufficient. Why are all of you so enraged, wanting to enter the arena to kill me? Do you feel that the prestige of the 9 great sects isn't enough? Or are you looking down on the royal clan of Granshang? Qin Wentian's thunderous roar caused the entire space to tremble, his voice echoing throughout the surrounding tens of miles. Everyone knew that the 9 great sects and the royal clan of Granshang were here. Life and death on the arena was determined by fate. Who would dare to kill Qin Wentian? This explosive roar caused the experts from the various powers in Xian King City to fall into silence. However, the baleful aura in their eyes towered up to the heavens. They were filled with hatred for Qin Wentian. We will naturally abide by the promise made by the 9 great sects and the royal clan. However, if you want to use the spatial teleportation scroll to leave, we have no choice but to obstruct you. An upper echelon from the Xian King's manor coldly spoke. Shang-Chi was his junior, and he died in the hands of Qin Wentian. Shang-Chi's talent was extremely outstanding, and he had always been highly regarded by the Xian King. As the sound of his voice faded, a 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign had already passed the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Evidently, this person was aiming to kill Qin Wentian. This person was an expert from one of the major powers in Xian King City, the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan. His body radiated a terrifying heat, and since he was able to pass the test of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation, his combat prowess should be extremely tyrannical among those at the same level. It was only because he was too old, and he knew that he wouldn't be valued by the 9 great sects. Hence he didn't come up earlier. After all, when the 9 great sects were recruiting disciples, talent was an important factor. If one was too old, even if their cultivation base was at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, their talent would still be limited. But now that they wanted to kill Qin Wentian, how could they not come up? I want him to die, to be incinerated by fire. An expert from the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan coldly spoke. His hatred for Qin Wentian had seeped deep into his bones. Jin Yan was his son, and Qin Wentian had to pay the price with his life. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. Who said I'm leaving? Qin Wentian stared at the expert who spoke as he coldly spoke. The lines on his face changed, but after a moment, he reverted back to his original appearance. Those who were still doubting him no longer doubted him. So it turned out that he was none other than the young man in white who caused the 6 great powers to suffer a loss. How powerful! He was like a god of slaughter, disregarding everything to kill the 6 great geniuses. In front of him, those geniuses were like chickens and dogs, unable to withstand a single strike. They couldn't even receive a single spear strike from him, causing people to doubt if they were really geniuses. Lin Shui from the Battlesword sect had a look on his face when he saw the countenance of Qin Wentian. After which, a faint smile appeared in his eyes. So it turned out that this young man was none other than the white-robed young man in the video. No wonder the ancestor regarded him so highly. Currently, Qin Wentian's tyrannical performance truly caused the eyes of everyone to light up. Those geniuses from the Xian King city couldn't even be considered anything in front of him. I Qin am merely a single person. Back then in the heavenly mountain range, the experts from the 6 great sects all came out together. There were even many at the upper 3 levels of Heavenly Dipper. They truly think highly of me. Since I Qin am here today, I naturally have no plans to leave so easily. How can I not properly seek guidance from the experts from the 6 great sects? If not, wouldn't I be letting down the grace the 6 great sects gave me back then? Qin Wentian slowly spoke. The bloodline in his body abruptly erupted forth as a demonic aura gushed forth. His black hair fluttered in the wind, akin to a waterfall cascading down his back. His eyes were incomparably black, immeasurably deep and resplendent like the stars in the night sky. In the center of his brows, a brilliant light flashed as though a third eye had been opened. His aura surged madly, akin to a descendant of a primordial demon king, wanting to dominate this entire world, sweeping everything aside. The expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan walked over, his body radiating a blazing sunlight as his astral souls and astral novas erupted forth. It was as though there were several suns rising up at the same time, blinding the eyes of those who saw it. The bloodline in his body seethed, as though a golden lotus was being nurtured in his body. His entire person was unexcelled in this world. He walked towards Qin Wentian. His body trembled as he soared up into the air. His blazing sun palm imprint slashed out, causing the sunlight to be so blinding that it hurt the eyes of those who saw it. An incomparably gigantic golden lotus abruptly erupted forth, transforming into countless golden flower petals that swept towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian soared up into the skies as the aura of a monarch gushed forth. Stepping on the air, sword chi revolved around him as he continued forward. His sword chi towered up into the heavens, wanting to destroy everything. His sword-type astral nova floated above his head. That was the sword of a monarch, invincible. Die. With a loud roar, his sword slashed out, causing boundless sword chi to surge forth. The petals of the golden lotus were all obstructed as they collided with the sword chi. The sound of metal clashing against metal rang out as an ear-piercing sound rang out. Boom! Qin Wentian stepped out again, causing the entire space to tremble. Stellar transposition was executed as his long spear abruptly pierced through the air, piercing towards his opponent. That expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan folded ancient seals in his hands as 9 blazing suns erupted forth, wanting to destroy everything. His long spear pierced through the blazing suns, shattering them into pieces. A terrifying illusion of a nightmare appeared, causing the mind of that expert to tremble violently. His will wasn't strong enough, and he was dragged into a nightmare. Although Qin Wentian had consecutively killed so many people, even at this moment, nobody knew exactly how strong his spear arts were. If one didn't personally experience a nightmare, they wouldn't know. Poochie. It was still that dazzling spear strike. Although his opponent's cultivation base was at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, so what? Qin Wentian's bloodline was extremely tyrannical, and in addition to the fact that both his wills of mandates were at the transformation boundary, his mandate of nightmare was extremely terrifying. Within that spear strike of his, there were 2 different types of energy. The power of a nightmare could shatter everything. Who could block it? Die! Qin Wentian roared. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, that expert's head exploded as he died under a single spear strike. The light dissipated. Qin Wentian surveyed the surroundings as he coldly shouted, "Who dares to kill me?" Chapter 509. Qin Wentian was clad in black, wielding a long spear in his hands as he stood proudly in the air. His long black hair fluttered in the wind as demonic chi towered up to the heavens, akin to a demon god descending from the heavens. Who can kill me? This roar was like the roar of a demon king, containing an unexcelled aura, incomparably arrogant. In the training grounds, the highest cultivation base limit was the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper. However, when his bloodline power erupted, his cultivation base was comparable to the 5th level of Heavenly Dipper. In addition to the advantage of his astral souls, the astral energy and astral novas in his body had an absolute advantage. The amount of energy contained within a single grain of astral energy was even more terrifying. Every time a stellar martial cultivator unleashed an innate technique, it would be formed from boundless astral energy. The stronger the astral energy, the more terrifying the innate techniques they unleashed would be. This was especially so since Qin Wentian had condensed his divine energy. Just this energy alone was enough to break through to the next realm. Not to mention that all 4 of his mandates were at the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. In particular, his spear art was derived from his halberd art. His halberd art had been comprehended over the past few months, and he had gone through countless times of tempering. Each and every spear strike of his contained a halberd art, containing 2 types of innate techniques. One was a terrifying nightmare attack, while the other was an incomparably powerful pulsating attack. The former was the suppression of one's will, while the latter was the most violent and direct form of destruction. Under a single spear strike, those at the same level as him would die without a doubt. As the spear landed, the experts from the 6 transcendent powers were no longer as confident as before. However, they were even more infuriated. This young man was so powerful, they had to kill him no matter what. Let's join forces and kill him. An expert from the Xian King's manor roared. At this moment, there were already 2 experts who passed through the Violet Thunder sword drum formation. They weren't in a hurry to act, but stood guard at the side of the formation, waiting for the next person to pass. Their auras erupted forth as they stared at the black-robed Qin Wentian, preparing for battle at any moment. The demonic chi from that expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan towered up into the heavens as a fearsome hurricane manifested around him, causing the sand and gravel in the air to swirl about. The spectators below were all blown into disarray by the tyrannical gale, as they retreated unceasingly. The whistling sound of the wind was akin to countless sharp blades scraping against one's body, causing one's skin to feel a faint pain. Even their clothes were being torn apart, and what was even more terrifying was that a pair of gigantic wings appeared on his back. That expert from the Yin family was like a lightning god that had descended into the world. Lightning violently danced on his body, enveloping the entire space. The crackling sounds caused the eardrums of the crowd to ache. That imposing aura of his simply wanted to crush everything. Whoever blocked his way would be killed. Just these 2 people were already so terrifying. From this, one could see how strong the determination of the 6 great sects was to kill Qin Wentian. They would definitely not allow Qin Wentian to leave this training ground alive. How could Qin Wentian be afraid of them? The crowd only saw him standing proudly in the air as he kept his long spear. With a flash of light, another long spear appeared in his hands. This long spear shimmered with a terrifying coldness as an aura of sharpness gushed forth. Astral energy circulated around the body of the spear, causing Yin Ro to exclaim in shock. This was the high-grade, 4th-ranked divine spear. The long spear Qin Wentian used earlier was only an ordinary one. Now he was going to use a divine spear. All of you are experts from the 6 great sects, with cultivation bases at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper. You all brought along supreme strength and divine weapons, wanting to surround me, Qin Wentian. I, Qin Wentian, used an ordinary weapon to fight against all of you. It's simply too courteous. Even if I use a divine spear, you all still have a great advantage. I believe that even if I kill all of you, I will still show my true strength. Who dares to say that I, Qin Wentian, am relying on treasures? Qin Wentian's voice rumbled, causing the crowd to silently nod their heads. That's right, Qin Wentian was fighting against the encirclement of 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns from the 6 great sections. It was only normal for him to use a divine weapon. Even so, he was still at a disadvantage. Those 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns who came up were all wielding extraordinary divine weapons. At this moment, Qin Wentian stepped out. Instantly, sword intent gushed forth as the 7 Annihilations swordplay erupted forth. Right now, it was even more terrifying than before. The King of Heavenly Dipper sword floated above Qin Wentian's head. Every step he took caused an intense killing intent to permeate the entire space, wanting to destroy everything. The black-robed Qin Wentian was still wielding the long spear in his hands. Yet each and every step he took contained a towering sword might. He was like a demon king, and also like a monarch of swords. Such a demon-level aura deeply shocked everyone. This young man is a demon-level genius. We can fight for him from the Qinghua Mountain. The countenance of the experts from the Qinghua Mountain gleamed with sharpness. Such a genius was truly hard to come by. Just by relying on the power of his bloodline, he was able to jump 2 levels in combat and insta-kill his opponents. His mandates were already at the transformation boundary of the 2nd level, something even 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns wouldn't be able to achieve. This black-robed young man can stand shoulder to shoulder with the demon-level geniuses of the 9 great sections. His combat prowess is definitely not inferior. The expert from the heaven-cleaving manor mused. He also had the thought of recruiting Qin Wentian. Such a character could definitely be nurtured as a core member of their heaven-cleaving manor. Qin Wentian definitely wouldn't be any weaker compared to the geniuses of their sections. He hasn't even undergone the nurturing of the 9 great sects, yet he has already grown to this extent. If he joins our sect, he would surely be even more terrifying. The expert from the Great Earth sect mused. To Qin Wentian, it was as though the examinations of the 9 great sects weren't that important anymore. With such combat prowess, all of them wanted to recruit him into their sections. The 9 great sects all had their own thoughts. In the Battle Sword sect, Lin Shuai's countenance was calm, yet a faint glow could be seen circulating in the depths of his eyes. He stared at Qin Wentian, who was stepping out step by step. With such sword might, this young man was truly too suitable to join the Battle Sword sect. Could it be that the Grand Master wanted to nurture him into a heavens chosen of the Battle Sword sect? Becoming the future leader of the Battle Sword sect? All these would have to depend on how great Qin Wentian's potential was in the future. But for now, they had to first recruit this little fellow. Lin Shuai stared at the crowd. It seemed as though all the experts from the 9 great sects had the intention to recruit him. At this moment, Qin Wentian had already taken his 5th step. The other 2 experts were still waiting for the 3rd person, but they could already feel a towering sword might permeating the air. It was as though the entire space was filled with terrifying sword chi, penetrating through their bodies time and time again, wanting to tear apart their astral novas. Kill! The 2 of them roared at the same time. The expert from the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan was engulfed by a hurricane as he lunged towards Qin Wentian. Every flap of his wings shone with a resplendent silver light, capable of directly cleaving a human body into 2. The expert from the Yin clan wielded a gigantic thunder pestle that was inscribed with complicated divine inscriptions. With a swing of his pestle, a thunder god walked out from within, blasting towards Qin Wentian. The heavens and earth danced wildly as the purple lightning bolts shattered the void. Qin Wentian stepped out as boundless sword might gushed forth, piercing through the bodies of the 2 experts. They only felt cracks appearing on their astral novas as they groaned in misery as blood seeped out from the corners of their mouths. However, their killing intent didn't falter in the slightest. Qin Wentian inclined his head, and with a single glance his astral nova slashed out. This sword was akin to the sword of the god of slaughter, breaking apart the body of the thunder god. At the same time, his long spear erupted forth, piercing with incomparable precision into the silver-colored wings of the expert from the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan. This silver-colored wing was an extremely sharp killing weapon, capable of slicing apart people. When the long spear pierced through it, a cracking sound rang out as cracks appeared. The silver-colored light shattered, and the body of the expert from the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan became unstable. One of his wings was actually shattered into pieces. What a powerful attack! The crowd exclaimed in admiration. A single strike was able to shatter the incomparably sharp silver-colored wings. How terrifying was the might contained within Qin Wentian's spear? Do you think you can escape? Qin Wentian stared at the expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan as he sped away. Although Qin Wentian expended a lot of astral energy by executing the stellar transposition, he had 4 yuanfu and could afford it. Before this, it was useless for him to kill those geniuses. But now he had no more worries. Poochie! That fatal spear strike pierced out. The expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan abruptly spun around and slashed out with his claws. Instantly, numerous silver-colored rocks swooped down, aiming for Qin Wentian. Destroy! Qin Wentian spat out a single word. Everywhere his spear passed by, everything was destroyed. Poochie sounds rang out as the long spear pierced through the body of his opponent, stirring up the internal organs of his opponent. There was no chance for him to survive. In the time it takes for sparks to fly off a flint, the expert from the Yin clan descended with the Thunder God pestle in his hands, aiming for Qin Wentian's head. At the same time, his astral novas blasted downwards, enveloping the entire sky. This entire space was filled with the power of lightning, capable of annihilating everything. Bang! Astral light erupted as he executed stellar transposition once again. Qin Wentian's body directly broke through the domain of lightning, but his black robes were already lacerated. His long spear didn't hesitate as he stabbed out with it. At the instant the expert from the Yin clan turned, a terrifying dream devil energy rushed into his mind. Poochie! Another crisp sound rang out. Qin Wentian's long spear was so powerful that it could kill gods and Buddhas. Nobody could withstand the might of his spear head-on. What profound mysteries were contained within this spear strike? Even now, the spectators had no idea. They only knew that those who had experienced the might of this spear strike before had all died. At this moment, Qin Wentian stepped out, arriving at the front of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Another expert was about to pass through the formation when he saw Qin Wentian's long spear mercilessly piercing towards him. That expert's countenance paled as his heart trembled. He had no choice but to retreat. The long spear directly pierced through the center of his brows, killing him in a single strike. Qin Wentian is simply a fiendish god. In the arena, he's invincible, nobody can deal with him. The crowd stared at Qin Wentian, who stood at the end of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. How would there be anyone else who dared to enter the formation? Qin Wentian stood there. He could easily kill anyone who dared to enter the formation. Although the 6 great sects were powerful, 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns were already considered the elites of their sections. Even if one of them died, they would still feel heartache. The 6 great sects were all enraged. They stared hatefully at Qin Wentian. Their eyes filled with hatred as though they could tear Qin Wentian into a million pieces. The major powers of Xian King City are truly disappointing. They can't even withstand a single strike. Qin Wentian casually spoke, ruthlessly slapping the faces of the 6 great sections. Killing their people, mocking them for being useless. Who could refute that? So many experts died under Qin Wentian's spear? Who would be able to fight against him without dying? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.